See a full table. All right, we good over there, Naomi? Yeah. It is 7:30 on the 15th of November, 2023. I'll call to order the Ware Conservation Commission meeting at 7:34. And we have 7 folks around the table for the first time in a long time. So from my right, we got Mike, Zuzu, Mark, and Sherry. I'm Andy, Steve, and Ray. So, excellent. And it's also excellent to see one set of minutes here to review at the start of our agenda, but with the work that our secretary, Mr. Camacho, has done.
I brought May. I brought 3 copies.
We also have May 10th minutes to finally put into the queue. And
There's another one.
yep,
Oh,
you brought the May ones. Did we? I thought we had the February ones too.
Yeah, I emailed February.
All right.
No, I emailed January. February, we didn't have a meeting.
No meeting in February, and somewhere here in my awesome filing system, on the other side of the stack probably, I have a copy of the February minutes. So we have just a little bit of catch up to do for the early part of the year, as well as the October meeting minutes to review and approve. Anybody have comments on the minutes? Want to start on anything or leave it to me? All right, on the October 18th draft minutes, starting from the top. Yeah, that's on the, I pulled that from the website.
Oh, so we don't have paper copies?
We can make some paper copies, so.
Or I can just pull it up on the website, wherever people want.
Anybody else like a copy?
sure.
1 copy, 2, 3.
Sure.
I'll take it.
All right.
I wasn't
Let me
here.
make some copies.
I wasn't here for that meeting.
Uh,
It's the only one I missed.
Right, last month, right. It was I think we are looking for. Great, that way you can see the chicken scratch I did on it. Not much.
Good.
It's a very detailed record, and mostly accurate. Has anybody else looked at the January meeting minutes?
I just skimmed them. I didn't look hard, but I went through them quickly. They were online.
No, the January ones,
Mike.
Mike just emailed yesterday or the day before. So this is part of backfilling. And our goal, thank you, Mike, I think we have a chance to get there, is to have our minutes approved for the calendar year by the December meeting. Or have them drafted and ready to go, so that we can populate our record. And would anybody, it's a quick read, like to look at the May minutes? Anybody?
That looks good.
All
I
right.
got 'em.
This May?
If that's what it says, and I don't know how it got there, but there it is. So.
Yeah, there's a typo. May.
Was that taken care of at Parent Pond?
I don't think we,
No.
I don't think we had much interest in doing that work.
Yeah, nobody won't, yeah. There's a typo there.
Thank you. So,
Char, like a fish. Said chairman on the May one.
Nice char. It's not chair, it's char.
Char.
My name's spelled wrong, too. Have to get
I did my best.
two R's and a Y.
Fact check is in order.
just like school, take and pass. Take and pass.
That's all I see there.
I didn't see that, Steve. Where was it?
That's, I'm looking at this one.
The May one, where it says
Yep.
char on, forestry items.
Forestry items. Oh. Yep. All right, so looking at the May one, we have correcting the spelling under members present of Sherry. And changing on forestry items, char to chair, vice chair Nager. All right, so we got front and center the May ones to consider. Anybody care to look or consider further? If not, then let's have a motion and a second.
I'll make-
Motion set minutes as amended.
Second?
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
I would abstain, I guess.
I guess I have to abstain because I wasn't here, right?
That's a reasonable thing to do, for sure. Yep.
I'm learning.
So Zuzu and Ray abstain. All right. After that, let's go back another step to the January ones. Anybody have any corrections, additions, desire to look further? If not, I will take a motion and a second on that one.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
These are the January 11th. Motion made by Mark, seconded by Steve. All in favor on the January minutes, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Thank you. The motion passes. All right, working through the record of the October 18th, last month's meeting. Back to the top for present. I'd like to change commissioner for Mike to secretary. And change ex officio for Sherry to commissioner. Down on line 25, just change Stephen to Steve, just for common usage. What we do, if we go Stephen, we spell it differently. So just change that to Steve. I found on line 46, just a typo, take out the S at the end of recreations, about 3/4 of the way across the line. To be Parks and Recreation, change committee to commission. And then the two sentences down, I did not understand the line.
Rebuilt.
I know we did talk about tennis courts, But we're missing some chunks of grammar there as in a subject, and I thought we could just take that line out as irrelevant or unnecessary, if not. And then down to line 54, Ms. Burrington had also reached out to New Hampshire Forestry. I'd like to change that. I think it would actually be reflected by Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests, or SPINIF is a short of that.
Who did she actually reach out to, though?
I don't have a clue.
My recollection is she said she contacted somebody at SPINIF on it, but I could be wrong on that. It could have been somebody at the state. I mean, forestry is a state thing, so.
Right.
I do recall her saying that she did speak with not just Terry, but somebody else who currently worked for the state, and they basically didn't have a whole lot to add, because there isn't anything to add. But I also had recollected,
The
sure,
presentation that she gave to the select board does have SPINIF on it.
right, right. So I'm pretty sure it was SPINIF, but if you feel like there's some ambiguity on that, Steve, I would be glad to change it otherwise.
No, just trying to stick with whatever was actually conveyed.
That was my understanding, yeah. And then down line 82, I'd like to change 3/4 of the way across the line, Finance Department to Finance Committee.
Was 180,000, was that correct on line 66? Because I was thinking it was 200,000.
Conservation, I think it was 180.
It was on 180, yeah.
It was 180?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
initially 50, and then it was 130
Okay, I
because
just
the
wanted to
grants
make
didn't
sure.
come in.
Yeah,
And then, in actuality, there was another 5,000 that we helped out with at the tail end. But, yeah, that should be 180.
okay. But somewhere I think I saw it 200,000, but I'll have to look.
And I'm suggesting that rather than trying to fix the language on the sentence that starts at the end of line 104, we just strike that sentence. That's, again, grammatically just garbled and unclear. Maybe I was unclear, but I don't think I was quite that unclear. Missing a verb.
Something, yeah,
And then at the end, it just doesn't ring quite right.
no.
Then I'm down to line 146.
Are you removing that?
Strike, yeah, remove.
Chairman,
You're not gonna add the word said, you're just gonna take it out?
I tried for myself adding the word said, and then it still didn't work for me. I know the concept I was trying to convey, or I have some recollection of that. But the language still didn't work for me, and rather than expending an effort trying to change it, I thought, you know what, we can just do without it. It doesn't materially change, and it's a level of detail that's not mandated either. So down to line 146, my recommendation would be we change into its status as conservation land to bring it under easement, because it already has status as conservation land, in my thinking, anyways. And I'm jumping down to line 171 with a grammatical correction on the spelling of Matthias. And jumping down, this is just grammar, 188, York raking instead of breaking. It's something that's dragged by a tractor on dirt roads. And then we have more spelling on lines 211 and 212, correcting the spelling of nature in two places, and again with Matthias in one place. finally, the last thing I saw was we wanted to add on line 251, Chair Fulton said that T.A. Bolton forwarded an email that trees along the Eastman Conservation Area Town Forest Driveway were flagged. So I wanted to get the property we were talking about into that sentence. Maybe it's is helpful for the record.
It looks like there's one more misspelling of nature on line 252.
There's a bunch of them.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh, all right, so that's a universal thing.
227 is another one, yeah, I mean, maybe just go through the whole thing with,
Do
search
it.
and replace.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and there's another one, 187, all right, now that I'm looking for them.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And 192, yes.
Is there a reason why we got away from the, that letterhead that actually had our names on it? On the minutes?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it jumped over to a town convention for, just by default, I guess, from the other spots where, meeting minutes were taken. Naomi, could we, have our note taker use the top of our minutes as, I've provided and as Mike has provided here, sort of as a header, as it lists our names over on the right side. I know our minute taker has a template, but yeah, if we could,
Consistent across all town boards, because she does minutes for all of them. That's why.
so it's not possible to change that?
No, it's just, if we give her the correct template, whatever his name spelled correctly, I think that would be the easiest. It's consistent across the board.
Right. Mike just CC'd you on emails today, and I CC'd you back in April, but not in April, I'm sorry, regarding the April minutes, but we have a full board now and a full commission now, and it'd be good to, if we could, note that as,
But I'm saying, if she takes the template with all of the correct spelling, and starts with the same, it's consistently the same.
Oh, she just looks at our
She has
agenda.
a template for Board of Fire Awards, she has a template for planning, she has a template for zoning, she has a template for the Board of Selectmen.
right. Steve makes a good point. We have a meeting agenda for tonight.
That's the agenda's different from the minutes.
No, but it has our name spelled correctly, I'm just saying.
That's right, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if we give her the template with everybody's name spelled correctly,
Would you please do that?
yeah.
Thank you. And will it list the commission members at the top, or is that not something that we can put
I
on?
can do whatever, I'm not gonna argue over nitpicky crap, so.
Well, it's just a request. We'd like to see that, if it's at all possible, on the top of our,
This letterhead's not easy to,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I know, it jumps around a bit, yeah.
tell me what you want, I'll just do it.
We'd like to have the commission members listed at the top of our minutes. Thank you.
Say some more comments on.
Yep.
So, having not mastered the English language yet, Conservation Commission, when it's not specifically where Conservation Commission, is that capitalized or not? It should be lowercase, right? So, on 40, that should be lowercase. 44, Conservation should be lowercase. 17, Conservation Commission should be lowercase. So I see there's some similar issues in there.
Same on 70,
Parks and
line 76.
Recreation, 46, it's not really where, Parks and Recreation.
47 is conservation, is capitalized.
Yeah, 47,
I mean, it is referring to the Ware Conservation Commission, though.
yeah, so should that be uppercase or or not? Because I always thought if it's the proper,
Yeah.
then it's the uppercase, but if it's not, but just a question.
Well, it looks like on our letterhead, it's uppercase.
Yeah, because it says Town of Ware Conservation Commission, so that's the proper,
Ah,
To the right-hand side, I think it will be the right-hand side above your name is.
oh, gotcha, yeah, it's there again.
So that's why she refers to it the capital, because it's the commission.
Yeah, it's almost redundant, huh? You have it on the letterhead, but,
does it matter?
I don't know, whatever you call it, proper English. Well, like, you look at like the farmland on 85, there's no reason to capitalize. that
Farmland,
there.
oh.
Lot line on 79, it's capitalized. Is that, I don't know if that's because it's a proper thing or not, but farmland definitely wouldn't be. Early stages of conservation on 92. Should that really be capitalized?
Nope.
We got, Piscataquag instead of Piscataquag. Piscataquag's in Portsmouth, Piscataquag is in Ware.
Down on 126.
Yep.
Yep. Quog, Piscataquag.
I don't know, like with towns and town, I don't know if that's, should be upper or lower in that case.
131 in your name, I think is bad again.
Yeah, that's a
133 again.
universal on that.
That's a good question on that, though, what's right when you're referring to the, if you're just using the word conservation or the word like agriculture, definitely not, but I guess we need an English professional. What else?
So we're gonna move on to what we're here for tonight, about Smith's property. Or you thought, let me see.
Yeah, we might as well get it right, though. I mean, agricultural fields, is capitalized on 154. That's all I got.
Okay, any others? All right, there being no other comments, could we have a motion on approving these minutes, please?
I'd make a motion to accept the minutes from October 18th as corrected.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain?
I will abstain again. because I was
Abstain
not a-
again.
There we go, 601. With Zuzu abstaining. I'm
502.
I'm sorry, Ray, you abstained on that one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I wasn't here.
Yep. All right, thanks for waiting through that chore. And thank you,
So you can bring us up to date on our minutes.
Mike, for pitching in on that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks, Mike. That brings our minutes up to date, correct?
That brings our 2023 minutes up to date. Our negligence extends back to 2022, and I'm suggesting no effort to go there. If somebody wants to help the record out, I think what we ran into was a staffing shortage, energy shortage on the commission, as well as that YouTube recording, and it's hard to challenge the visual that goes along with the recording. So it doesn't put it in writing, but it is a solid record as long as it's saved somewhere. So I think that's what we're relying on for time before this year and going forward. We're redoubling our efforts to stay on top of these. So that moves us on to any further thoughts, considerations, status update on the proposed ball field, or conversion of a hayfield into ball fields. And I think one thing that should be noted for the record is that, and this was something we perhaps didn't have a full handle on before in our prior discussions, but there's actually a substantial size hayfield there, and a portion of that is on town property. The northeast corner of the Banks Schmidt property is field, but that field, just for clarity's sake, extends right on to Banks LLC, I believe, property, and extends on to Brown property. So it's a large field under,
Part of the property.
pardon?
It's not all.
That is not all part of town property, so it is not all available for anything as town property, or if, subject as we had intended, and we still hope, if placed under conservation easement, it would not cover the entirety of the field, although the Brown piece is already under easement. It would be an easement, abutting an easement, which is a solid level of protection. So one point there, and the acreage, I believe it's about 6 acres on the east side of the existing road, and about 1 acre that was reclaimed from woods in, I believe, the last 10 or 15 years on the west side of the driveway to the gravel pit. So it's about 7, maybe 7.5 acres with the road through the edge of it. Not the middle, but the edge, as far as a town-owned hayfield goes.
Can I
It's
have-
not 12 acres, it's not 20 acres.
I wasn't here for the discussion of that, but why do they want to take the hayfield when they have a gravel area that's ready to, or could be ready to be used for that?
Short of it is, the perception that was shared with us is it's closer to the road, which is better. It is flatter, which is better. It doesn't have trees, which is better. It doesn't have to wait until the gravel is mined out, which is better, according to what was presented to us last month.
I don't think any of it's better. Plus, you need a parking spot, and you have a lot of people going up and down that road. Those are all negatives. So,
There's a wide range of opinions between commissions and various points and pieces of commissions, and it's before the selectmen at the request of Parks and Rec to consider and decide on the path forward there. Or if it's not, to consider the issue and come to a position regarding the request that Parks and Rec has made for a ballot warrant, a warrant on the ballot that would go on to our town vote or town meeting components, deliberative, as well as our recording the vote as an SB2 town. Steve?
I just want to add something in. So, last meeting we had Ian McSweeney go through a bunch of stuff, and this one set of minutes didn't come up in the last meeting, and just wanted to read this into the record. The December 2nd, 2013 Conservation Commission meetings minutes contain a concurrent Board of Selectmen meeting minutes. So the thing, like Laura's got this opinion,
Which we have now, yeah.
and she's just looking at the town warrant article, and she doesn't, I don't think she's gone back and reviewed everything, because the warrant article went off the rails. It didn't happen. The funding that was in the warrant article did not happen. So in the end, the purchase was much different as far as the funding allocation than the warrant article. And then there's one meeting minutes where we did the public hearing to use conservation money, and there was a clear understanding in my motion from that, and we had mentioned, I could dig it up again, we talked about it last meeting, but just for the sake of not dragging stuff out, I didn't notice this meeting minutes, and it's really key, so just want to say in Roman numeral 3, concurrent Board of Selectmen meeting from 7:27 to 8:20, the commission attended the Board of Selectmen meeting in order to address Board of Selectmen Banks Schmidt land purchase agenda item, Middle Hall trust funding. Mr. Najar addressed the Board of Selectmen upon invite for public comment and mentioned the conditions that were attached to the commission's funding pledge, including management of the property as conservation land, less than 20 acres to be set aside for gravel extraction and reclamation as athletic fields. So that ties that together right there. And Board of Selectmen Chairman Clow confirmed the understanding that the existing fields are to remain in agricultural use and advocated a meeting of all the many parties involved in order to address the expectations of each party.
Yeah.
Pretty darn clear as far as intent goes there.
So when was that, the date on that?
That was December 2nd, 2013. So, you know, Laura, just looking at the warrant article is not acceptable. I mean, at some point, we might need our own attorney that has our own opinion, because that, you know, that warrant article is not what happened. And there's another, I think there's another set of minutes where I asked about, you know, because of the change in the warrant article, the legality of the way that the town ended up going, you know, in the various funding sources, like what even really applied at that point, because it got pretty confusing, you know, a bunch of money never came through, and we had to pony up way more money than, you know, than that original 50,000. I don't know, I think Mildred Hall might have ended up putting more into it
Yeah,
as
that was
well.
155, I believe.
Yeah, so anyhow, that's kind of, but that's a real key, you know, set of minutes that shows intent there. And it was contiguous 20 acres, not.
So is the glitch here that the easement was never filed properly?
Never was
no, it's
filed
never
at all.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a
How do we
bad
go about
thing.
doing that then?
It caught, so the problem was, is there was no money at the time, or we didn't want to put more money into it. There was supposed to be like a, I think Ian was trying to fundraise for that, so Forest Society or PLC, they have a stewardship fee and they have their project costs that have to get covered. So it's probably, you know, nowadays it's probably $30,000-$40,000, between the two to put an easement on that. So that's what you have to do, and then you have to, the other part of this is, the way this whole thing was set up, you needed to go out there, you gotta survey in that exclusion. So we never really had that. You know, if someone had a sketch map that no longer exists that showed, you know, was that gravel area, was the exclusion. And so you'd have like the road and then the reclamation plus however many acres to make up the 20 would have to be literally surveyed in. So yeah, it'd actually be more than 40. So you get,
Another 10 anyway.
yeah, at least another 10. Well, you'd have to go through planning board and all that stuff. Oh, I know you wouldn't, that wouldn't be a subdivision. You just need a survey, yeah, you're right, so like 50 probably. And you need some consensus on where that 20 acres is.
Well, the sketch map that's here, that came in the original thing there that shows the field, shows the gravel pit,
Yeah.
and it says a gravel pit in
And 12 acres,
right,
Yeah.
12 acres.
right,
Well, that's down here,
yeah.
and right up here.
Agree? Yeah, I agree with you.
So, I mean, there's some basics there that are pretty explanatory with it.
Have you seen this map, Steve?
That's part, yeah, that was something that
Yeah.
Ian shared with us.
Yeah,
That was,
Yeah.
I believe, was attached to the purchase and sale.
So we need to, so is that something that's on the Conservation Commission to get the easement done?
The language, and this was another tricky spot, the language said, of the warrant article said, and the selectmen are authorized to complete the easement, or something to that
Yeah,
effect.
right.
So what went before the voters said, this is something the selectmen are tasked with doing. And it didn't happen.
That's Brownie's property, by the way, that says not part of the easement. That's not,
To the right, yeah.
yeah, so it doesn't
Not
really, it
Brown's.
didn't really show, it shows the pit, but the pit kind of straggles along that road right there. And
Well,
Yeah,
right, the earlier excavation area is, the road runs through the earlier excavation.
Is that pit still active?
Yep.
It is, so they're still using
not
it.
legally.
That was one of the sticking points, as it was presented to us, was, well, we don't know when that pit will be done, so, you know, we can't plan, you know, ballpark or ball fields in it, because when will it be available? We don't know.
The
And
thing is, though, it's not
But-
just ball fields, it's parking areas and facilities that encroach onto what's supposed to be conservation land. It should be very clear to anybody that it's a little bit more above and beyond what conservation land is supposed to be used for, right? Public recreation doesn't mean, I mean, you could build a skate park there, a go-kart track, that's all recreation, but my idea of conservation land is trails and, right? I don't know if you agree, but this goes beyond.
we generally draw a line between passive and active recreation, and complex ball fields, you know, that's active in that you're changing the landscape in order to, you know, maintain a baseball field, a soccer field, a lacrosse field, what have you.
You have fences.
Field hockey,
and, you
fences
know,
and
it's almost
grandstands
commercial.
and,
Oh, it is, yeah.
well, and, yeah, I think the high school field, you even,
Irrigation or whatever.
yeah. And supporting infrastructure, and if you go grand, then, yeah, then you're at least gonna, you know, put porta potties somewhere and things like that, which are, beyond the traditional scope of passively using the landscape for recreation.
So just a couple notes, where that 247B is, I believe the current pit area is out into there. It's actually much bigger than what's shown on this map, and,
Right, so what's shown was,
10 years ago.
yeah, before we
Just little
worked on it, so it was made available to the town. Townsfolk viewed it as a asset worth acquiring, and voted to put up 200,000 towards it, or perhaps for it.
So as a, not as a board member, but just as a citizen, I've actually offered to assist, you know, them looking at maybe some private ideas of, you know, some lands that might be suitable, and just throwing the suggestion out there that, you know, that they should take a look at really something that's big enough to meet their needs, that makes more sense, and, you know, that, nobody's really taken me up on it yet, but, you know, just having a little bit of, experience with some town purchases, and really looking at something that's more suitable, because it, you know, it seems to me like they need an actual complex where they can, you know, we can just do this once as a town, you know, do a bond, buy land, put in some big fields, you know, meet the need for a long, long time.
No pun intended, that's a game changer for the town.
Yeah.
Clearly, we don't have it, but we're not Bedford, we're not even Henniker in that regard. They have different landscape, different things available, but, you know, it took quite an effort, to get I still consider it the new, safety complex built, or even to get DPW garage built. I mean, these things didn't necessarily go through first time, and it was a massive campaign and effort to bring people together to bond the purchase of the land from Ferrante that we now call the Eastman. And that was broadly supported because the campaign was presented well enough, and the partners were legitimate that were going in on it, and it leveraged quite a bit of, you know, conservation character to the northern part of our town. But the populace, the voters supported it. And, you know, what Steve's describing is a very significant undertaking, but it's not something that can be done next year, as in the land will be available next year so that we can build out in 2024.
Yeah, I think my main problem with this whole proposal is we gave our word to Ray Banks, you know.
Well,
It's really clear what the intent was.
Well, the town did. I mean, your chair of your selectmen said that they were gonna go forward and do it, and they didn't, so I think it should be corrected.
Yeah,
That's my opinion, but,
yeah.
Well, I fundamentally, it goes back to, well, and we've tried to make this point, we tried back in April to make the point that this is a parcel, a property subject to Conservation Commission management interest and obligations. And we were not, as I pointed out in my email this past, was it Sunday night, maybe Monday? We weren't brought to the table even after we dealt with the police use for certification, firearm certification of the gravel pit. We still weren't brought to the table when the discussions were ground level. You know, bring us on, selectmen, bring us on, Parks and Rec, let's walk the land with you. And apparently at the end of the walk that involved this parcel as well as Einson, the town-owned parcel there, it was suggested, hey, Parks and Rec, why don't you just, so that's suggested by somebody on the Board of Selectmen, why don't you just use this part up here in the front? And if we had been there, we would say, well, the reason you wouldn't do that is because that was part of our purchasing agreement, right, and intent, and reason that we got the Conservation Fund involved. And grassland that is hayed has a value, and it is rare. In fact, in town, I dare say it's more rare than a ball field.
Yeah.
And I've spent plenty of time, folks around this table have spent time on ball fields, it's great. So it's nothing against, playing organized sports, fantastic. So Steve's, personally volunteering to say, let's, try to come up with a better way forward and volunteering some time. I appreciate that, Steve, and perhaps something like that might be in the offering going forward.
Could you, one
You're
big,
gonna have to pull the mic up close to you, like 6-8 inches away.
one big sticking point for me is I can't find where it's legal to purchase land through a conservation fund. So I would, if you're using conservation funds to purchase land, it is for the sole purpose of conservation. So I would see some legal issues in the future. I mean, I think it's great that we're making it clear that we are, our thought on the land was it was going to be used as conservation, but then when you're changing the use of that land, where's that legal line? Are we crossing that legal line? I think we are. Or if that were to happen, I think that'd be crossing a legal line.
Well, I'm afraid it would set a precedent if you start doing stuff like that. It's like, why can't you do it anywhere? And then what's the value of, as a landowner, if I know that my land won't be protected, I'm not
gonna be,
giving it, I'm gonna sell it to a developer and make millions of dollars. Simple as that, right?
yeah, I think it leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths if they've given property and it's supposed to be put in an easement and the town doesn't do it, then other people that might want to donate conservation land, not gonna do it. And I've already heard that statement made by a couple people in town already, so it's probably gonna happen if they do it, but
So, the unique problem with this project is it literally wasn't our project, and it did have 20 acres built into it, but, so the Warren article, was ambiguous where the 20 acres is, but my motion later on to expend the conservation fund was pretty clear about it, and then that set of minutes we just read was also a clear understanding that the agricultural fields were not part of that. So, I really don't like mixed projects, and this one was a mixed project. So I agree with you, but there was 20 acres that was not intended to be, on a strict sense conserved.
Sure. Yeah. I'm going off the thought of the fields were intended to be conserved. That's where that
Yeah,
thought comes from.
yeah, I agree with you. So ideally, if we can get the town coalesced behind, if we really want something big and just go, see, there's only a few suitable potential areas that I know of, and, see if you can make a deal and bond it, but this is, the stupid thing about this is like it doesn't meet the need. And, infrastructure is such a huge part of any project, like Ray's saying, you need parking, you need lights, all that stuff. And it's like, you always get that economy of scale, if you need 5 fields and you can get them all in one place, that's what you should do.
You gotta have parking, you gotta have a way to get in there,
Yeah.
it's a tough issue.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Well, 6 acres isn't gonna do it, and that's all that hayfield is roughly 6 acres, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to maintain the road going up through the middle of it for access, plus your parking. It's just really, if you were Ray Banks, you would never, ever allow that, because they still have that apartment house there, and he's got another parcel next to it, so it's just, I feel bad that, that they cut the price and we're potentially doing this, so, we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get some, get something more sensible that really fulfills the whole need for the town, not just a little piece.
So, again, I ask the question, what do we as a commission need to do to move this forward?
Get a lawyer. Not kidding.
You know,
That's on one end of the spectrum for sure.
Do we go meet with the Board of Selectmen about this?
We continue to, is how I'd put it. Steve has spoken with the Board of Selectmen about it, I've spoken with the Board of Selectmen about it. The whole commission, back in April, spoke with the Board of Selectmen about this parcel. So we keep doing those things. Keep trying to voice our sincere concerns. And there are other sincere concerns in town, sure, and there are passionate voices in town. But even, or maybe especially when the passionate voices are loudest, we still need to be present in our calm and factual, unemotional way, saying, consider this, consider this, consider this. I will, email and present information, and I appreciate a couple of the selectmen got back to me and said, thanks, I've received this information. So, that's some good feedback saying, hey, at least we're hearing, your side of the story, or what you're presenting is acknowledged, received, and that's a good start. So the other thing, and again, I'm working, on the other end of the spectrum from what Steve's saying. The other end is in our conversations with friends and folks around town. If anybody's willing to bring a question to it, new to town, old to town, what have you, speak directly and speak calmly and in an informed fashion and try to share information.
Okay, I understand. But there's no conservation easement that was supposed to be put on there. How do we move forward with getting that easement put on?
We can't force that. We can't just do that and say, here's the money, put it under easement, because we don't have the authority to do that.
Does it go now under a warrant article that's gonna be presented for?
We do have the authority, actually. We'd have to just make sure it's still valid. We had that warrant article that we can put any piece of conservation or town forest under easement. That wasn't the intent of the way that was written. It was supposed to, that one was on the selectmen, but we still have that if that's considered valid. Remember we did that article?
No, that's a pretty good arrow in the quiver.
Get that part done, because that was the original intent of the warrant article as it was written,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, it fell through the cracks. And now as a group, as a commission, we need to get that reinstated or put back into place. And if it's not us, then we have to go to the people that are gonna get it done. If it's the Board of Selectmen, then we need to,
Well, that's a different approach. That is one saying, hey, on our initiative, this is what we came up with. This is who we've spoken with. Piscataqua Land Conservancy or the Society for Protection of New Hampshire Forests, or potentially even some other body, and then present and say, well, here's what it could look like, and here's what it would cost, and here's the language, and see what happens. I mean, that's investing potentially a fair bit of effort, and maybe the the way to go about that is on the lines of what Steve mentioned, which was not necessarily the Article 29 way back when, but the subsequent year when we did request authority to put conservation lands under conservation easement. And say, this is what we've got in our quiver, and see where it goes. It's a bit, I don't know whether it's, maybe it's necessary, I'm just not sure.
So don't forget,
And before you say something, Steve, can you hold that thought?
yeah, sure.
Zuzu, you had something you wanted to share with us, and could you just pull the mic up
Just a
closer?
Clarification that, but I think you've addressed it already, that the onus based on that warrant article seems to be on the Board of Selectmen to put this particular.
Clearly,
based on that particular.
on that
warrant.
Article 29, yeah.
So-
Steve?
Yeah, so, you know, I like where you're going with this, Mark. The conundrum is, where is the 20 acres? You know, so that's where you need consensus from the board to say, here's the 20 acres. And I think you'd have to spend some money for someone, for a preliminary design, or just to say, no, it's not feasible, but here's your 20 acres of gravel.
Yeah.
And pull the gravel out and, so right now, we're kind of, I mean, the town, as a town, is floundering on the alteration of terrain permit. That was in there too, because I noticed, like, when we got into the firing range thing, that we had not done an alteration of terrain permit, which puts us in violation of state standards. So, yeah, I mean, we need.
That would
to do some-
specify, alteration of terrain permit would specify the area that is going to be altered, correct? Which would be the gravel pit.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that would identify that.
Yeah,
But then if I recall, it's the other.
12 acres.
12 acres. It says another 12 acres for recreation, or
I think it's adjoining that 8.
that's how I interpret it.
yeah.
That's how I
So
think
it would
everyone has
be 20 acres
total.
total set aside.
No matter who you are, it wouldn't lead you to believe that that field is part of that.
No, it's not even close.
And it seems like, to me, it seemed like it was such a perfect thing where you have a piece of land where you could put in conservation, have an area for gravel that's a good resource. You don't want to develop on top of gravel pits, it's a limited resource. And then once that's all mined out, you have a place for ball fields and that's your reclamation.
Yeah.
So now they don't want to do that. They want to take a pristine thing away from all of this. Now what are we going to do to reclaim the gravel pit? You have to spend money on that. So they would have to wait until the gravel's mined out, like it was implied. And then that's your reclamation of the gravel pit, is by putting in athletic fields. Makes perfect sense, right? Now you've got the resources but to have the gravel pit and then ruin another area for something else and parking lots and ball fields, it doesn't make sense to me.
It's not big enough to begin with. 6 acres isn't gonna do anything.
No.
They're not gonna get 4 or 5 fields in there and a tennis court down the road. It's not happening. So they're gonna have to use some woodland. So, you know, my opinion is go back and give them, you know, give them a section of woodland and let them start there.
One of the concerns of that was similar to Bolton Field where it's off the road.
Yeah.
And it's awful tough to keep an eye on it. And a lot of stuff happens at Bolton Field because they can't keep an eye on it. This is the same case.
Right.
Even if they have it in the fields, you still gotta go through the apartment complex, you know, the apartment building and stuff to get up behind there.
So then you're asking the private residents up front to police
with that,
what's
yeah.
behind, or
To put up with all of
either
that.
put up with it, or have to try to stop it on their volition and say, all right, we're the gatekeepers for the,
Well, speaking of.
you know, the town.
Narrow, though. This whole thing is so narrow, it's long, but
Yeah.
narrow.
Yeah, yeah. But speaking of gate, I mean, is there a gate, actually gate that locks at Bolton Field going in?
Yes.
So how are kids getting in down there with their trucks and ruining the fields?
I think for a long time, the gate was left open.
Oh, it
So
should-
people
So-
could use the
yeah,
use
so-
the facility.
You
Yeah,
know,
but they've got,
some folks could go down there, run around the field and
Yeah.
use it, you know, as intended. But I think they also might have run into folks coming in with ATVs from the backside. And the gate up at the road's not gonna change that.
no.
No, and putting this complex where it's mentioned, it runs right through a
And frankly,
snowmobile trail
I mean,
and everything else, same thing.
we suffered the vandalism too. We used to have a little, not quite kiosk, but a little protected map area on the entrance to Wood Family Forest, and that got trashed.
Oh, yeah.
And that gate, of course, gets regularly,
Beat up.
gate onto Wood Family
Didn't
Forest
the-
there,
The
gets
tennis courts
abused.
got vandalized as well, right?
Right, that's right
right-
here,
right
it's
off
in
the
our
main of-
town.
yeah,
That's right
everybody
next
can
to-
see that. I mean, vandalism's gonna happen everywhere,
Put
unfortunately.
some cameras up, catch them, and then when they get a
I mean,
big fine.
even if it's just like it doesn't have to be a live stream camera.
It can be a
You can
game
look at,
camera
you can look at,
once a
you
week.
can pull the SD card and look at the footage after something happens. So you don't need it to be live streamed.
That's pretty cheap nowadays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
You know,
$100.
We tried that on the snowmobile trails, and they vandalized the cameras.
well,
Found them,
yeah,
man.
well,
Yeah.
Yeah, if they see
So,
'em.
it doesn't work.
Right.
It only works
well,
once.
going back, if I may, rein us in a little bit, back to Mark's question, which is very pointed and to the, you know, worthy of us considering. One thing we haven't done, which we could do, is ask for an audience with the Parks and Rec Commission. Go to their December meeting and talk commission to commission. We haven't done that. We've spoken Conservation Commission to the Board of Selectmen. But the other party in this proposal, or the advocates for it, we haven't had a face-to-face discussion. We've had some informal, we've had a representative here to talk with us and share a proposal. But now we're talking some of our counter proposals and ideas and concerns. You know, we could say, hey, you know, either a special meeting with Parks and Rec, which is very hard this time of year, very hard any time of year, or, you know, into December, and say, can we do a joint meeting, volunteer to go to their meeting, if we have more than 4 or more of us, joint meeting, or if we only have 2 or 3, it's not a meeting, but it's a sharing of ideas as sort of brought forth from this discussion at our meeting tonight. So that's another thing. Steve, on the other end of the spectrum, you know, what thoughts do you have on options ahead of us? You know, we can use conservation fund for some things. We can't use it for everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, big picture, really, we need to move with several legal issues, the Poor Farm boundary, this, and, you know, per Laura's opinion, I mean, you can use conservation for an attorney, because we're just not getting anywhere, and then also the, dealing with the monuments up on, Cortland. Did it make that on there? Should have been on there. I mean, I'd suggest that we just, you know, we put aside $20,000 tonight and then ask the Board of Selectmen if we hire an attorney, if that is similarly exempt from town purchasing policy, or if we've got to put a, request for proposal, and then just get this stuff handled. So, I mean, some of it's lingering like way too long, like this Poor Farm thing.
Couple years.
Yeah, I mean, the Cortland thing, you know, it's like, that guy's just gonna drag that out forever with the, and, you know, an attorney might look at it and say, you guys are dummies for not accepting a piece that doesn't have monuments on it, and that'll be the end of it with that, and then we just pay for a surveyor, but yeah, I mean, that would be my suggestion, is we really need some, like, help that we can actually talk to whenever we want, and, you know, just handle it that way.
Have we ever got any response back on the county?
No, that was in our minutes, we never got anywhere with that. I mean, we can't, you know, because of the Board of Selectmen policy now, we used to be able to talk to Laura whenever we needed to, and it was no big deal. I mean, this is stuff, like, we need to say, hey, you know, she's not our attorney, she's their attorney.
Yeah.
And we might as well just push this stuff, you know, on our own here. Bring it to resolution, because, you know, like, if Steve Cogliano goes out there and lays all that timber to waste, you know, because he's got good access on the far side of the pond, then it's gonna be much worse of a fiasco. So, I mean, he contacted us, and we never really formally responded,
And that
his claim.
Yeah.
And that goes back to Poor Farm boundary. That's the 4th bullet down.
Together.
Yeah.
So Cogliano and Poor Farm boundary claim or adverse claim are related. And then I'm adding under land management, there's that third issue Steve mentioned, monuments on Cortland Ave development, or, I don't remember what the name of the development was, but the road is Cortland Ave.
Yeah.
And that is something that's just another, how can we do what we were entrusted to do when we don't have boundaries marked between the private landowners' lots and the sort of communal open space conservation land?
We have an easement on that.
And that's actually an easement held by town via Conservation Commission, based on the subdivision regs of
14
of an
acres,
open
right?
space or a cluster
Big
subdivision.
amount, I think.
Yeah.
I could pull it. So for anybody that follows us on the commission, when we're long gone, don't ever take an easement. Cause that was part of that open space, so we got like forced to take easements, and we're not capable of holding an easement. We just don't have the time or the people to do anything with it. Yeah, let's look it up on the.
And one of the big things that an easement holder is obligated to do is fight encroachment,
Yeah,
And how many
or
acres are there?
respond, maybe
looking
fights
up
to
right now.
respond to counter encroachment to, keep to a line.
we got the same problem at Duck Pond.
And then, Brookside down the road.
Isn't Brookside
Brookside was,
Cortland?
we had that checked, and I think the monuments are all reestablished.
There's still a couple,
We still got a couple.
there was still a couple issues there.
Yeah, and we had the encroachment, yeah,
Yeah.
so we need that attorney to go say, get your stuff off our property. Yeah, 'cause those people came in to one meeting that had something on our property. I don't know if it was the one with the sprinkler or the,
So-
Accessory items, and it's down to two that are
oh, yeah, the report from
Yeah,
Jerry, yeah,
from,
you're right.
Matthias.
Yeah.
There's one with the driveway, that pin is in the driveway.
Yeah, right. Right.
All right, Steve, was that a motion I heard?
No, there was a discussion of
Okay.
the commissioners, but let me just get the acreage for, that they had asked about.
Cortland?
Yeah, I'm a little slow here, but almost, okay, so here we go. 26.78,
Wow.
yeah. And they don't have nice square shapes either on these open space ones, so there's a lot of line. There is no benefit to doing those at all as far as taking it for the commission, unless you really, there was one really nice one where they did, I forget that guy's name, it was on the,
Right, down there in up on the Dunbarton line.
yeah, I mean, so if there's a parcel and it's a rectangle and you cut it in half and you get the one half and.
That was
it's
nicely
a
done.
Nice, even shape.
Well, it's so nicely done, PLC took the easement on that.
They did, yeah, what's his name? Forget, anyhow. Yeah, these open space ones, like the Duck Pond's gonna be a nightmare. I'm sure it already is actually, because they're in their pounding houses and probably don't know where the corners are.
Well, we already know that where we were, snowmobile trail, that some of those,
yeah.
stuff's not in the right way, right place.
I gotta talk to you, I heard something about a similar case somewhere else, but anyhow, don't wanna waste our time tonight. So, yeah, I mean, that was just I will make that, I guess that motion, if everyone from consensus kind of feels like it's reasonable to at least gear up to do that. So, the thought is for us to go, at least me and Andy to go, and request an audience of the Board of Selectmen on the 27th over 3 different things, which we haven't gotten to all of them, but this would be one of them. And inquire whether or not, if we get our own attorney, that the purchasing policy applies or not, because it's waived for the town attorney. So to gear up for that, I guess if we did a motion just authorizing, up to $20,000 and, development of a draft, work statement for next meeting, I think that would be a reasonable start, and then to go have that discussion with the selectmen and then bring it back here, and then, then we can put out if we have to put out a
Request
proposal.
for bid.
Yeah, yeah. I think you just select based on hourly and maybe travel time, I guess, So 20,000 from conservation for legal services to deal with conservation land issues, including Bank Smith, Cortland easement, Poor Farm boundary. Those are all directly tied to a conservation land or easement.
That list again, Steve?
Bank Smith,
Thanks, man, poor farm.
Poor Farm, which Poor Farm would include county, just to be clear.
For Falmouth County.
Yeah, and Cortland.
And when are you gonna do this? What day?
Well, if we can ask the selectmen if we can see them on the 27th, because conveniently, that's the same night Parks and Rec is back there.
Naomi, is the 27th gonna be okay?
Shouldn't take too long to ask a couple of questions. I mean, ideally, I think we want to keep the conversation going on Bank Smith. Let them know that, we'd like to do this, and then, the next, we'll get to the forester contract here and the discussion afterwards. So, yeah, that's just to set aside 20 from conservation for, for use and getting legal assistance for those parcel, management of those parcels.
Do we have a second on that motion?
Yeah, that's hanging on whether that would go to the purchasing policy.
No, so either way, the money is set aside, so we can go say, hey, we've set aside the money. Then we'll go to the 27th and just ask whether or not the purchasing policy applies. Either way, we're gonna have to come back here the next meeting, and if they say it doesn't apply, then maybe we can just talk about a few suggested attorneys, if we can, look, or we would just, we will go over the request for proposal that we will send out as a commission. So we're not really doing anything other than saying we set this 20 aside, hey, Board of Selectmen, let's talk about this, that's our intention. So it just shows that we're solidly intending to do it.
I'm worried that the attorney that the town uses and the attorney that we may use would conflict.
That's the whole point of it, actually.
You want them to and fight? It's expensive.
I don't think we're getting good advice. We're not getting,
No.
we don't have direct contact with the town attorney. The town attorney's made it
Well,
clear.
never
that she
mind.
represents-
I think the advice we've received in the past from Laura has been good.
Yeah.
At this point, we're not receiving advice.
Right.
We're not capable of,
Well,
requesting
should
even
we
advice.
ask to fund it ourselves and just use her as the attorney? If she's the town attorney, but the money, instead of coming out of the town account, would come out of ours?
she's already stated to conflict of interest concerns. She said basically, if conservation has a different view than Board of Selectmen, representing Board of Selectmen, I can't help you. And some of that, unfortunately, the point is, potentially some of these questions, for instance, on Bank Schmidt, could be, well, one legal opinion says I support this position, another legal opinion says I see this other opinion, or this other position, or there is another position. So when Steve says that's the point, well, the point is, this body, this commission, needs good advice, and we're not getting it.
Yeah, and this, like I said, I mean, in the distant past, it was no problem to call up and have a discussion. And I understand, they're managing town, they're managing a budget, we manage a budget, we've got a budget. So, to the point that policy is micromanaging access to legal too much, then this would just eliminate that problem altogether. Because we need, for instance, the Poor Farm thing has just gone on too long. We're getting nowhere. It's frustrating as heck.
Yeah.
Because that guy could go out there and pummel it because he thinks he owns it, and then you got a bigger mess to deal with, You know, like, let's take that even further. If he goes and puts a road in there, something that does qualify for adverse possession, I'm not sure with the town if he could definitely do that or not. But I mean, you know, there's timelines to these things, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and hopefully everybody's in agreement, and hopefully we can just sidestep this whole thing and common sense will prevail and we find a better project. But just to get someone dedicated, working on resolving these long-standing issues is the real deal. And like Andy said, Laura has made it clear that she represents the Board of Selectmen.
You would think that this is the town of Ware. The town attorney should represent the town business. We're part of the town business. Now we're gonna be not an adversary, I don't know the right word, but we're competing with ourselves.
In conflict with.
Conflict,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're competing with ourselves.
Yeah, it's definitely not a savory taste at all. It's a bitter taste that it puts in one's mouth, just contemplating.
I do feel like we have certain duties as far as land management and conservation land
Have we
management.
seen the policy of what it is with the town? What,
We can't go, I don't know if Naomi wants to talk about the access to legal policy.
It's on the website,
on the website?
right on top of it. On the ordinances.
So, just like anybody else, we can go looking and finding. We're not told when it shows up or whether it applies, or, so we have to go looking.
So my motion, just to be really clear, just starts to set things in motion. So, I mean, if we go in there and they say, hey, use the town attorney, don't worry about it, you're authorized for these three, great, you know, no sense spending conservation money.
Mhm.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you for that second. With the motion made and seconded, let's continue the discussion if there's any further discussion.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with anything. I just have a little hesitation on going that step right now. But then it's when do you take that step? The opinion we did receive, or that was given to us. I'm not a lawyer. I do work with the law every day. Looking at the history of an issue, whatever that issue may be, is an important part of the whole process. And I think this was just related to the Warren article, and it wasn't. So I always have this thing in the back of my head where, if this were to proceed, there's the potential of the town being sued. That lawyer is going to do the history, is going to see all of the public record that we have brought. You stated a bunch of it today. I don't see that going well for the town, so I agree. We need a better opinion or a different opinion. And then can you explain what's going on with Poor Farm? Why was that letter not sent?
We don't know. We don't have access to the attorney. It's in our minutes, we requested to do that. This is just way too frustrating as far as, we're just not getting the support that we have, we used to be able to get.
We jump over to the, the failed bidding process. There were some things we needed to know, we being, in this case, both the commission and the Board of Selectmen. We needed legal opinions and answers as to whose authority and where the edges of authority were as land managers. And the proposal was, yep, we can ask our attorney. Well, she's on vacation. She came back from vacation. I don't know the answer. Maybe the answer's out there somewhere, and I haven't asked in the proper way for what the answer is as to handling town forests when there is a conservation commission. There's an RSA that says when there's a conservation commission, the conservation commission manages the town forest. All right, so what does that mean? That just results in secondary questions, and we still haven't received an answer from our town attorney saying, hey, Board of Selectmen, hey, Conservation Commission, this is my opinion as to what the law says. Can the Board of Selectmen become, when there's a Conservation Commission, become the manager of the town forest and say, you shall accept that bid, or you shall redo that bid, or you shall change the winner of that bid to this entity? And so we're left with a town attorney who says, I can't talk to you about it.
So it would be,
And if there was a legal opinion provided eventually to the town, we don't have it. It's, nobody, as a Conservation Commission member, has that information. I don't know whether the selectmen do. I don't know whether town administrator does. But my understanding clearly from sitting at a meeting in this room was, oh yeah, we'll ask that question, we'll get an answer. That was months and months and months ago.
yeah, I'm not disagreeing.
So, you know,
So
that,
the
that's
idea-
another case where, you know, this body is invested with the responsibility of managing very substantial sums in the conservation fund. We can be called to question if we mismanage that. You know, it's a very humbling responsibility. We don't want to do it wrong. So in not wanting to do it wrong, we're like, we need the professionals who make a living off of the law to help us negotiate here. And we're on a windy path without getting directions. It's a unenviable place to be, because we need ready access to an understanding legal mind for opinions, to help us make the right call and make the right choice, to make the right next step.
I agree with all of that. My thought is, you go to the Board of Selectmen, they say that, you know, that this is the advice given by the town attorney, or no, the town attorney cannot provide guidance. And then you would go and we would use funds to hire an attorney.
Sure, this could be the start of a backstop.
Okay.
And an answer from the selectman could be, well and good, but we don't have the budget for it. And then that's puts us in a totally different place. It's like, well, all right, if we need more, but the town's not able to give it to us from the general fund budget, can we use funds within our purview to get there? In certain places, certain cases, certain actions we can, certain other ones we can't, as we understand currently. So if we get a yeah, but, at least we got the yeah, and then we can work on the but.
You know, one thing I would consider, Mike and others, is I would advise not to kick the can down the road by another month because of the actual voting cycle, if we do need legal help. And it is authorized, but we do have to go out and do a request for proposals. So this only just starts it. It doesn't actually do anything other than it's a discussion point with the Board of Selectmen. You know, in an ideal world, they'd say, yeah, just go ahead and deal with Laura on these 3 issues, go direct. I mean, right now, the way that thing's written, like it goes to Naomi, Naomi goes to Laura, comes back to Naomi, comes back to us.
No, it goes back to the Board of Selectmen
Oh, that-
before it comes back to us.
If it
Goes
comes
the
back
full
to
Board
us.
of Selectmen.
Okay, on that, yeah. It goes through the town administrator though, right? It says on there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the chairman has to approve it. And if he's not available, then the vice chair or a designee.
Right.
But then the answer comes back to the Board of Selectmen, has to distribute it to the board, to the full board.
Right, and we already got, the thing that's kind of frustrating with the Poor Farm is Laura was already, there was some correspondence about her bringing Cagliano to court and doing a thing to quiet the title, and then it just fell apart. So,
Yeah, it's,
That
kinda
should be in
frustrating.
some of the minutes somewhere, because
It
it
is.
was discussed.
oh yeah, it was in there.
and we have no idea what's happened since, or?
No, and we can't go direct to say, because the last thing we asked was to get Laura to write a letter to Cagliano for the Board of Selectmen to sign and send it to him, and then if he didn't agree, bring him to court.
Andy, from what I see here is you need to make a request to the Board of Selectmen chair. And I think we need to bring up these 3 things of county, which is, we're waiting to hear, we've heard nothing. And let's ask them to inquire as to where it is. Let's follow the ordinance, they want it, so let's put a request in, written, it has to be in writing, written request.
That's a
And
good idea.
That's county,
Cortland,
the three things we're looking at.
Cortland and
Yeah.
Bank
Well,
Schmidt.
Cortland, I don't know, was involved, had we asked for any,
No, we haven't asked for
no,
anything.
the
on
one
that.
is the county and
Bank
Poor
Schmidt.
Farm.
County and Port Farm, yeah.
Is the one that we've been waiting for an answer as to, and I thought they were asking for quick tile,
Quiet tile.
quiet tile. whatever.
Well, yeah, and so we had asked that Laura draft a letter, you know, this final step, draft a letter that
Yeah.
initiate court. So I think that's a good point. I think, if we send in that written thing, we go to the meeting on the 27th, but, like I said, I would still encourage us to consider the motion. I mean, I guess we'll consider one way or the other, but just as kind of a backstop.
Well, you got a second, and so we considered it, but
Oh, you haven't had a
let's,
vote on it
let's
yet.
go through this first and.
Yeah.
And on that letter, I think we should ask about, getting the easements started, because it says, if I recall, under reading that, it was the Board of Selectmen's responsibility for the easement on Bank Schmidt.
That's kind of exempt from the legal thing though, Mark?
Then how do we figure out what we need to get going?
So the easement, like we talked about, is, we gotta agree where the 20 acres is and get it surveyed. And then we also need to reach out to either we or the Board of Selectmen. PLC has kind of stopped doing business in town. They got a little frustrated with things.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that Forest Society is gonna be real hot either. So you need to find a willing participant, and we need to survey.
So we have some groundwork we need to do first.
Well, the problem was, like Andy said, it wasn't really in our court.
Right.
So
So,
we could help move it along, though. right?
yes,
Yeah.
so we need to start, at least get the dialogue open that we need to take and start seeing about that easement, and whether we have to go and see the PLC or society to see if they're interested, or they do.
So we gotta
I don't
do
mind doing a
two
call.
written requests, two separate written requests? If
Well,
we're gonna follow the ordinance?
The second one's not a,
Legal.
Not legal.
not a legal assistance request, yeah.
Do you wanna call them, Andy, or, Forest Society, or just email them and PLC, or you want me to do it, or?
Sounds good, Steve, I'd love to have you do it.
So just, we'll email them, see if there's any interest.
If I recall, there was some information we had back, and there was a correspondence with Naomi, that there was nothing, that there was a cutoff date, and we didn't do it by the cutoff date.
I think the discussion just ended. Brian Haas was involved from the
Yes.
Forest Society, and there wasn't the money there to.
Nothing was proposed.
Yeah.
There wasn't, this, somewhere from this room, there need to be initiative to say, hey, here's what we're thinking. Here's a first draft of a conservation easement. I don't see anything in the record saying, and this Forest Society said we'll need a commitment of $30,000 for monitoring fees. Oh, we can't pay that. I don't see that anywhere in the record, because I don't think we ever put the project forward as the town body to say, here's what we are,
Proposed.
asking you to sign on to for an easement, to take from us. And
Because-
that- So there's a number of potential explanations why that didn't go anywhere, but it takes initiative, and we lost the initiative to get it done. So, yeah, see, some inquiries with the land trusts that are involved in town, I could see that only beneficial, and see what the land protection specialists have to say.
Kind of lesson learned out of this whole thing too is the most successful projects are the one when the day the town is getting the parcel, easement goes on at that exact same day. Everybody's sitting, that's what we did with Eastman.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if that didn't happen, I mean, Eastman would be where the ball fields would go. Because it's a huge flat area, but you can never pull it out of that easement.
All right, we've got a to-do list for the chair and the vice chair. Out of this discussion, we've got a motion made by Steve and seconded by Zuzu. Any further discussion on that motion? Any need for clarification?
Steve's motion is just to draft a letter for legal assistance. Is that what you're looking to do?
Motion to authorize a budget of $20,000 from the Conservation Fund for legal assistance with the associated development of a draft work statement and the intent to go to the Board of Selectmen to request exemption from the purchase policy so that we can deal with the conservation land issues such as the Bank Schmidt proposal, the Poor Farm or County adverse claim, and the incomplete Cortland subdivision open space.
Well, it sounded like there would be a, I don't know, flow chart of questions to the Board of Selectmen, so we're just setting aside the funds. Should we get to, you know, first asking, can you tell us where we're at on these questions? Some of, it sounds like some have been lingering for a while that they may have the answer to. If they don't, can we work with Laura? If we can't, then we have set aside these funds, or approved these funds to be used for our own legal counsel. Can we get legal counsel without, sorry, I'm blanking on what you just said, without,
Oh, without the,
Purchasing policy?
well, yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
butting up against the purchasing policy.
And so either way, the next meeting, the December meeting, assuming we have a December meeting, then we would be discussing
The nuts and bolts, if,
how we are contracting that, whether it's exempt or complying with the, you know, if it gets to that step, if it's not just, if they don't just say, just go ahead and deal with Laura. Then we would, at that meeting, put out the request for proposals, you know, figure out the timelines and when that gets, you know, ideally, you wouldn't, you know, you couldn't hire someone until like January at the earliest.
Okay, quick, just a note here is, for you to put that question before the board, we have to vote on it. It says, any question pertaining to a committee or board shall be voted by a majority of said committee or board to authorize the chair to reach out to the attorney. So we have to vote on it to authorize the chair of the Board of Selectmen to be able to reach out to the attorney.
So does one of us have to make a motion to vote on it?
Yeah, we're in the middle of another
That's how I-
motion, let's do that.
That's how I interpret that. That we as a board have to agree that we need to have that question asked.
of course, makes good sense.
You know, the funny thing is that, so that policy's newer than, I mean, we already,
This just
came out, yeah.
What, a month ago, last month? Yeah, it was last month,
Yeah, so, I mean, somehow the ball got dropped with Laura on
yeah.
Poor Farm County. Yeah, let's, and we should do that if we.
So
conclude
make a
this.
motion that we,
Well,
well, you're
Hold
on.
on, we're already in the middle, or already at the tail end of a previous motion.
I thought
They-
that seconded.
They closely paralleled. we do have Steve's motion with Zuzu second. And I think we've got, witnessing the birth of a new spokeswoman here. I like the way you're thinking on these, Zuzu. Keep it up. We won't throw you to the wolves too quick, but glad to have you aboard. And then let's come back to a second one, just to be more clear about it. We could almost say, well, yes, in this motion up here, we already did that, but let's make it a separate motion towards the legal assistance request policy, or whatever it's formally called.
Legal opinions,
Yeah.
policy for regarding legal opinions.
All right, so we'll get back to that. Any other thoughts on Steve's motion? There being none, let's take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? All in favor? 700. Now, in order to make my request valid, and the request that Mark, you suggested, and which is that I, per the legal opinion request policy, in writing, make a request for legal assistance to the Board of Selectmen. That needs to be backed up by a motion showing that
We agreed on it.
we as a commission agreed on that. So,
Make a motion that you, in writing, request legal assistance regarding the Poor Farm County dispute
in Cortland.
in Cortland Ave.
Second.
Can suggest a modification, skip Banks on that.
I thought you started with Banks.
Oh, was
didn't you?
me?
No, but yeah, that was in the previous conversation.
Yeah.
Bank Schmidt.
Yeah.
What paragraph was that in, Mark? I'm not catching up to you on the policy.
It's under ordinance.
No, I got that, I got it open, I'm just,
It's the second paragraph.
okay. So most questions
Uh,
shall be in writing, any questions pertaining to the committee. Board shall be-
So do you want to add in writing? Did you-
That was there. Yeah, we got that. At least I wrote it down that way.
Authorize the chair to reach out to the attorney. The attorney will direct the response to the chair of the requesting board or committee, as well as board of selectmen, a town administrator designee. Repeating the question as it was related to said attorney and providing the answer rationale and history, statutory authority if applicable. That's weird, because we're not really asking a question right now either on the Poor Farm, we're just like,
Well, we actually are, we're actually where they are.
We're asking for an action.
Yeah. That's already been in
The
progress.
legal assistance is writing the letter.
Yeah.
we're
It's
not
what-
asking for a legal opinion, yeah.
We're asking for an
What
action,
happened,
a legal action is what we're asking for.
Yeah, right, okay, gotcha. Good, yeah. So the, we're gonna
And-
vote on that and then? go-
Well, we're in discussion on that motion made by Mark and seconded by Ray, so that we can forward something, I can forward in writing per policy a request. So now we're open for discussion on that motion, and I'll broadly entertain related discussion on this issue before we take that to a vote.
So we've gotta get like essentially the exact list of what we're asking
Yes,
in this.
he's got to request what it is we're asking for.
Can you take a stab at the Poor Farm County one?
Well, we're looking at where we are at, because registered letter was sent, correct?
No,
Oh, it wasn't.
no. That's what we were asked for. So,
Yeah.
that, yeah, if we try to list that out.
Yeah.
So for the, and this might end up being a modification of the motion to add this on. So for the Poor Farm, we are asking.
Let's hold on. You guys on board with making the motion and seconding it and with what we're doing as a modification? Okay,
Well, yeah, I mean,
continue.
it's discussion with the potential modification.
Clarifying
Yeah.
what you need to ask for.
Right, yeah. So for the Poor Farm, the intent is we are asking Laura to author a letter for the Board of Selectmen to sign to Mr. Carniano, getting him to relinquish his claim. And if he does not do that, we are asking Laura to follow through with necessary legal action to quiet the title.
So if he didn't get that letter, did he get the
Report.
survey and report that he was supposed to get to make him understand what's going on? That would be
Should have got
important
that.
for him to have.
Didn't you tried to send it, didn't you?
We're going back years now. I'm not sure.
You sure Laura didn't send that?
Because the
Letter?
report we got from the guy that researched the title,
Clemarza kid.
came up with quite a compelling result on that.
Yeah.
I thought that was registered letter sent to him.
I'm not sure.
That's probably why we haven't gotten a response back from him, because he hasn't gotten any of that information.
Well, that's a misunderstanding, because I remember, and that's last year, the discussions on that, and he did not, as my recollection was, he didn't respond,
Right.
but it was sent.
That's
Well,
what I
My-
that's what we were told.
My
is
best
that-
recollection is that he had contacted us by email, and I had responded to that email with the information and then received no acknowledgement. So the next step was to either go to certified letter, and I think we said, well, rather than having that come, from this body, wouldn't it be stronger if it came from the selectmen? Well, who would write that letter? The attorney would. So then my recollection is we went to, all right, if we're going to send them something, now viewing it as, a next level contact, let's have it done right by the attorney so we don't step on our toes and,
Yeah, it was
come
probably-
across as
probably never
something
done.
other than,
Then I guess
fully
we gotta
professional on
figure out
this.
if that's ever been done.
Well, I don't think it matters at this point, whether that's been done, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. What hasn't been done is we have not had that letter written and
Yeah.
drafted, approved, sent. So now we're coming back to it, and with Steve's vigilance, with what Steve's suggesting here, let's ask for permission to formally request of Laura that she help us with the letter writing, the language, the legal language to get the information to make the legally binding request of the person making the adverse claim or claim of adverse possession or whatever the legal language is that I don't know.
We've only got 2 sets of minutes from last year too. So I had some email back and forth with Steve Cogniano back in January telling him that, we had just gotten the plan and we're gonna send a letter to him.
January of last year, 22.
Just trying to see, because there's only 2 minutes on there. Nothing in February minutes. Yeah, nothing on the other side, so yeah, we don't have any minutes. That's all I got, just showing that we were gonna send a letter back in.
Back when, Steve?
Um, January 3rd, 2022, had some correspondence with him, just told him we were gonna send him the report, so I don't know if he never got the report or what. Told him, you know, we were gonna talk about the January 12th meeting. So I don't know if do you have anything, you have to look in your email, I guess, see if you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do that level of research while we're trying to move a meeting along tonight.
Yeah, anyhow, that would be the only thing. But I think ideally, we just send them a letter and send them the report. I think Laura's got the report as well.
Here's a bugaboo on that. What we're looking for is, can we deal with Laura directly on this?
I think
The Board of
if the
I
select,
know what you just read has this back and forth
Yeah, the
and,
Board of Selectmen can give you that permission on that.
I think why that ordinance is, and it makes sense, is the Board of Selectmen must have a budget for the legal stuff, right? So if everybody, all the commissions in town can contact the attorney, then the selectmen's budget gets blown out of the water. It'd be kind of like giving our employees permission to go buy parts and stuff whenever they want to, and then everything would go. So I understand why that ordinance is there, and it might make sense for this board to contribute a certain amount of money to the fund, or get our own person, if that's the issue, right? So when we ask a question of that particular attorney, even though it's the town's attorney, it comes out of our budget. And that might alleviate a lot of the concerns. I don't know for sure.
we've made that proposal before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. So, that would be, potential, I mean, that's what we need to ask, if that's what we're gonna do. And then for the Cortland Ave, we just need to ask how, we need to say that the plan that was filed, that was back when the planning board was allowing developers to say, monuments to be set. And so now this whole thing is built out, understanding there's still a bond on the road, because they haven't done never got the road accepted, but, so we took an easement on a piece of land that has no monuments. How do we deal with it? That's our question.
Yeah.
Can we force them to monument that? We had a similar problem where there were a couple of monuments missing, but it was a piece of land that we owned, and we went out there and just fixed it. But in this case, it's like none, or we don't know, we think there's none. So that's the question there, and then Bank Smith would be,
But isn't that something that, so they haven't accepted that road, but isn't that for final of their bond, is this gotta be monumented?
well, no, I wouldn't, are you sure that's in the bond? That's a road bond. I'm not convinced that there's anything. So, see, I mean, we took an ownership, piece of the slice in that property. You would never walk up to someone and buy a piece of property you didn't know where it was, would you?
Right.
We did that a couple times. Crazy. That's no longer allowed. The planning board fixed that, but we're stuck with that problem there in Duck Pond. And so, how do we force that? How do we resolve? Because right now, we're supposed to be enforcing the easement. So if one of those homeowners built something on town land, it's just like, it's this
Can't
problem.
prove it.
Huh?
Can't prove it.
Yeah, I mean, we can't monitor it, we can't prove it, yeah. You're right. So, just, she might just say, sit back and wait, or she might just say, we're kinda screwed. If we wanna have monuments, go pay for them. I don't know what the answer is, but it'd be nice to get it. So that's all we're
Yeah.
asking there, we've got an easement on a piece that's not fully monumented.
So do you have to have it,
Has
lines
anybody-
run on it, so you know where the lines are?
You'd have to send a surveyor out there to set the monuments. But we shouldn't have to do that, the developer should.
Good.
Has anybody been out and checked since they built it out?
There's nothing to
need to
check, we
check
don't
that.
know where any of the lines would be anyway.
Well, it'd be on the plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you know how that goes. It's hard to read a plan and go out there on someone's property and say, okay, look, here's where the line should be.
Oh, that's where your deck is sitting, right on the line, over the line.
Yeah, only a surveyor can verify that, for sure, and that costs money. So, in that case, is it cheaper just to say, the hell with that land? We're not monitoring it, we're not doing anything with it.
We can't,
You have to?
yeah.
No, that's nice.
So the, you know, what we've done on other parcels is send Meadowson out there to find everything. Yeah, this thing is not a good deal for the town. These couple of these open space developments are really bad.
Well, that's something we can look at after we get an opinion on what the deal is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then,
Because that's maybe what we have to do is send them out like they did Brookside.
yeah, but we know the pins are, I mean, I talked to Will years ago, and he's like, is this something I have to do? I'm like, well, I think so, you're the developer, you know? So he took it over, like, it was SHP. You know, I don't know what their finances were, but he was the one who was actually doing the
Yeah.
dirt work up there and stuff. And, yeah, it's just unclear what, so I don't know, like, on the back side of all those lots, if people got pins set or not, we don't really know. But it didn't sound that way.
I always thought you had to do that for a subdivision. All the ones I've ever worked in had to be pinned before we even got there to do any work.
Yeah, well, now they won't let them do that. That got fixed. Craig got that fixed. But yeah, it's a debacle. And then the third thing would just be to ask the Board of Selectmen to have Laura do a more comprehensive review of the Bank Schmidt conservation property and all the documentation, because she should realize that the Warren article did not, we didn't use the Warren article funding matrix, and there were public hearings for using the conservation account, and there was, like the minutes we just talked about in the agreement of the understanding of where that 20 acres was, so to see if she really wants to stick with this kind of short, because we don't know what she looked at, she just looked, it seems like she looked at the Warren article, but she didn't look at the public hearing for the expenditure of our money, the public hearing for the expenditure of the,
Mildred Hall.
the Mildred Hall. So have her look at the whole picture and then, see if there were any changes in her opinion. Now, we would do the same thing if we had to get an attorney, just see what they thought of the whole situation. So that's all we'd be asking there. And we can, we already have most of those documents, we can also give her the, it can show intent by both the option that was that was assigned to the town that Ian gave us, all the various minutes that were
Yeah.
involved with it. So there's a lot more than just that one article. So I guess-
Steve, did you ever get all the information from Ian that he came in and presented?
Did we get all, let's see,
I didn't see anything, but,
yeah. I don't
There's
know.
there's a bunch of
Yeah,
documents here.
Steve forwarded those to the commission
Oh, yeah, you gotta look at
and
the-
CC'd the town administrator.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you received that through the town administrator as a
I don't think
selectman
I'll
or,
have to look, but I don't.
and
think
I
got it.
just nights ago packaged that along with the explanation or a transmittal letter, so to speak, and sent 3 PDF documents just 2 days ago. So you should have that as it went both to conservation group email and board members group email. Have you
I'll have to
not
look.
seen that?
No, I haven't.
It was that, that was right there.
Is
And
this-
those 3 documents were provided by Ian
Is this what you're talking about?
in response to Steve's request that he do that.
I'll look tomorrow.
There's 3 pages there.
I'll look on my other computer, just in case.
The
If I'm
option.
not getting stuff to you, that's not good.
Well, it's,
Or just,
I was on the iPad. And it may not have gone. Sometimes there's an issue with what comes in on that
Sure.
versus what comes in on the computer.
Yep.
It shouldn't be, it should be fine. but-
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's just hardware chokes on things.
No, I think there's, the option as well. Have to see if that's, I don't know if that was in there or not. We can get it in there.
Have you seen what I sent out the other day?
No, I haven't on that town email.
I got it.
Well, you gotta go, guys, you gotta go to that town email.
It's the 3 PDFs, yeah?
If I'm sending it to, our conservation group email now, there are no private emails on that. That's why Mark's not getting it, Ray's not getting it unless you set up the Outlook, so
But I got it.
because I, through talking with Mark, realized that you weren't getting things, so I sent it to you,
Private.
right, directly, as a CC to your personal email. And as a body, it is probably better, there's a reason why we went here, for conservation business to use that Outlook email if you can. If there's some reason you can't, let me know, so I can ask the town administrator to at least put your other email address back into the pot so that you're getting them. Presuming that can be done. If you need and don't have that paper that says, here's my special password I have to talk with, right,
I just got it tonight.
do that, if at all possible. So, and you have the information you need to be able to do it. And I agree with you guys, I don't enjoy going there, so I wasn't the first one in line getting it done either, so. It does require a little bit of technical aptitude.
Nick was wonderful to help.
Ah, good. Yes, he was, actually. Yeah, right, you just did that, what, today or
Okay,
yesterday, yeah.
Good. So there's gonna be more, I mean, ultimately, when we go to Laura, we wanna just feed her all the minutes and everything too.
That's-
They got them all,
I mean, that's what legal,
did you have that one that I just read though? Did you-
I had not forwarded that one, I had spoken from that one back at our,
Yeah,
last audience with the selectmen.
okay. 'Cause that's a good one.
Yeah, it was, yeah, and we're trying to be respectful, but principled in our position. And we don't do our job well if we just say, okay, a lot of people want it, so, okay, whatever you want.
Yeah.
We can't properly manage what's been entrusted to us with that approach.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we have what you made as a motion, what Ray seconded, what Steve amended, and your, Mark and Ray are agreeable to Steve adding that layer of depth to the motion on what we are trying to put before
Yes.
the Board of Selectmen as a formal request, formalized request. Any other? Great. All in favor, please say aye.
Thank you.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Now we got full 7, I can't catch every voice. All right, anybody abstaining? So
Did
that's
Susie did you get an email already?
Naomi just gave me the information.
the info you need for it, so. Actually, right, it's been going, so you'll have a bunch of backlog that falls in.
Okay, all right, good to know.
So, yeah, she just added your name on that a goodly while ago.
If she hasn't activated it, I
Ru-
don't think.
You don't think that she would find the queued up ones behind?
Well, I'll find out when I
Okay.
set up.
And talk to me if there are perceived gaps based on later stuff received, and I can send things along. Yeah, a lot of this hasn't been very savory tonight, but it's necessary, so thank you for everybody hanging in on it. So now we're jumping down to something that Steve was aware of, and maybe see if you can run with what you know or concerns you have on these proposed planning board ordinance modifications.
Yeah, I mean, all I noticed is in their minutes is they're looking at tweaking the buffer ordinance, and I think, you
Why
know.
don't you give us, as you work this out, a little bit of history for our members who were not around when we created you, were so primary in getting that ordinance enacted.
Yes, I mean, you know, the town of Ware, what we have is a one-size-fits-all buffer ordinance, just a 25-foot buffer around wetlands, and it allows removal of like 50% of the basal area of the trees, allows, you know, people to do landscaping and that kind of thing. And, you know, one of the inherent criticisms is if you do have to go through the buffer, it causes a trip to the, for a variance to the zoning board. And so you know, what I noticed in just briefly looking at their minutes, is that the planning board's working on changing that, and they haven't really talked to us about it. And I think, you know, Craig, had mentioned in their minutes about, you know, not all wetlands are kind of created equal, and, you know, so they may be looking at kind of a tiered system. And I guess, you know, based on my professional knowledge working with wildlife, that concerns me a little, because to really value a wetland's ecosystem function, you have to know that wetland. And it takes a long time to get to know a wetland, what lives in it. I can tell you from following Blanding's turtles around for 20 years that they use every wetland that's, you know, anywhere near where they're at. Eventually they'll be in it. And so to make judgmental calls on wetlands based on size, or I'm concerned with like where they're going with, or how that'll be evaluated, you know, because we can't ask a developer to study a wetland for a year. I mean, I've seen stuff like that in the distant past where I think, where they were asking for some wildlife studies, the planning board was, but, so I just feel concerned that, the planning board hasn't really reached out to us, and I think it would be worthwhile to reach out to them and say, hey, you know, kind of what gives, would be nice to talk about this a little bit. So that would be my suggestion there, is just ask them to maybe because they have some real set timelines. They have to do like their first hearing. It's coming up real soon, on any proposed, ordinance changes. So maybe just, I'd suggest the chair just reach out to them and say, we understand you're doing this and would have really enjoyed having some input, and suggest maybe, you know, scheduling a couple joint meetings, and why don't you hold off till next year? Or something to that effect, if there's no urgency to this thing.
That makes good sense. Yeah, interesting that our interaction with the planning board this year has been almost nil.
For years, we haven't had a lot of direct interaction.
Yeah.
I trade some emails with Craig now and then on different stuff, but. He's really good too, his heart's in the right place, and he's just trying to do good, but it'd just be nice to get some input.
Yep, all right. Something like that, in my thinking, anyone can correct me, doesn't need to be motioned and seconded and all that, but makes good sense. Steve, thanks for bringing that to my attention. So it's on my to-do list. Toot, sweet, pronto, right away, all that good stuff. Great. Moving right along. Hey, Ray's here. Down there up the top of land management. Anything you can share with us, Ray, on?
On the thing for the asbestos?
Yeah.
I had questions.
Yep.
Who wants to be the contact when a contractor calls and says he wants to go look at the property, because they will? Because I'm never really around. So they're gonna call someone, a contact person, who can meet them there, and they can look at it, because they won't be able to give you an estimate just on documentation that we have.
We don't have the keys.
So we need to find out who that would be.
Naomi, who, was it Public Works that has the keys to Barden?
Why would they have to be?
They did, because when I went up there and had to go in and show that guy from DES the old dental equipment, one of them,
I can ask, I didn't know he had them.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lock on the garage.
And then the second question is, do we wanna bond this? Do we wanna ask for a bond, a performance and payment bond?
Was it anything in the purchasing policy on that?
Well,
I mean, these guys are all
9 times
licensed.
out of 10, the state or the town or an entity, anybody that's gonna do any kind of contracting work, you have to provide a bond as long as the amount is, over $35,000. And that's because you don't want to have, if you don't ask for a bond, you're gonna have every little tiny Tom, Dick, and Harry contractor bid on this. And that could create problems. They might dispose of this stuff illegally or not. If you ask for a bond, and that contractor is usually pretty solid, if they have to deal with a bonding company, they need to be pretty solid and reliable. And so the towns usually ask for it. But you're gonna get less bids, but you'll get better qualified people. So we need to know if the town is gonna ask for a bond or not. So we can put that into the request for proposals. So we need a contact person for walkthrough, we need to know if there's gonna be a bond required. And after that, everything else is kinda simple. You have a bidding date, which we talked about this before with the logging stuff, a specified bidding date, specified time and place, specified person to open the bids, and go from there.
Do we do just one walkthrough though, not a contact person? Because if you have a,
You could do a walkthrough, you could have a mandatory site visit
yeah,
at a certain time, and we do that quite a bit. Most of the time, in fact, that's how they ask, they say there's gonna be a mandatory site visit on a certain day. Again, you're gonna limit the people who come, they might not have time to come, they might all be busy. But I know for a fact, we just did a job on one of the lakes up there, and they had a little bit of asbestos in a house, probably a wheelbarrow full's worth, cost them over $25,000. So, it wasn't cheap. But they're gonna definitely wanna look at the property, and so we just gotta keep that in mind.
Go ahead and roll, Steve.
can we, Naomi, can we have one of the town permanent employees handle that?
Why don't you do a mandatory walk?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, could they just, because it's gonna have to be plowed if it's, if we get snow,
DPW is short, so that's not gonna work well.
yeah,
We're only at half staff right now.
bummer.
Yeah.
Gonna be a rough season.
I'm not gonna ask him to do one more thing, he's short. He's preparing for winter now, but he's short.
We're gonna add plowing.
No,
Unless we don't
I've
get
walked
snow,
on
so-
sites in knee-deep snow and go look at them,
Yeah,
but that's just the way it is. These are all stumbling blocks. When I started, I don't know the answers to any of this, and I can't go do it, because I don't even know where this is, this place. So, these are the questions we need to, because I've already called Paul over at the construction summary, and he told me what I needed to do, and he would help me prepare the advertisement and everything, but I need to answer these questions so I can put it on there.
I think meeting someone over there is one thing, answering questions is another. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they-
If you're depending on somebody to answer questions, that isn't gonna happen.
No. Basically, the walkthrough would be mainly for them, and we would write it down, it's just for them to look at it, and they have to make their own.
They're still gonna have
This-
questions, you know.
Well, I know they will. A lot of times when I go to those things, I get if you don't know, you don't know,
No, I know.
you know? We just wanna hire somebody to abate the asbestos. But they need to know what the extent of it is, so they can
When you
give
say
an accurate.
abated, is that,
Well,
is that also removing?
removing it.
Removing
yeah,
it, huh?
Taking it away. So they're gonna wanna know how much work it's gonna be, they have to physically see it.
Yeah.
But we're not talking just the ACM, the asbestos-containing material. It is a full and proper demo.
According to the report given, that's very specific.
Dealing with
where all
the-
of these materials are.
Yeah.
But the people bidding it are most likely gonna wanna physically see where these things are,
Yeah.
to see how much it's gonna be, how much work it is to get it
And
out.
see the access, see what sort of additional things are gonna be required to do the job.
Do we wanna switch gears on this now? Because, you know, what I'm hearing as far as we talked about this year and a half ago, and Benji was running Public Works, and they were staffed, and Public Works was gonna demo this thing for us, and I'm guessing that's not the case
Probably
now.
won't have time now.
So, do we really wanna put out an abatement and demolition contract and not just?
All in one.
Yeah,
I think that's what he's asking.
Hmm.
Isn't that what you're asking?
No. I was under the assumption we were just gonna hire a contractor to
Do
take
the-
the material out, and then after that, the town was gonna demolish it. But like you say, if the town is staffed, they don't have time for this, you know? So we should probably
We're hoping
request,
for the best, but we
I
don't
know.
right now.
but we should probably request that.
I don't know that we have,
Demolition,
You could do an option.
could do an option. How would we word that? Cause it's two completely different
Get a price
companies.
to see the demolition at,
Yeah. The
abatement.
demolition contractors usually sub out
The abatement.
the abatement. I do know one particular demolition contractor that has the capability of doing it all in-house. They still have to bid it though.
I don't know that we have the staffing or the know-how in the present staff, the experience to do a demolition.
Oh, they'll handle it all. If you hire a demolition
Right,
contractor.
of course. But as far as just saying, well, you know, what we thought we could do a year and a half ago, let's still keep trying to go down that road. I don't know that we can, or that it's a wise choice on our part.
Financially, it's not gonna be cheap to hire a demolition contractor to go in.
You could put out the abatement and then as an additional, look for a price for demo and do it all in one bid.
good
You
idea.
don't have to accept both parts. You just explain that in the bid, that
You could. Yeah.
asking for part B as a price for demo after the abatement. And see what happens.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's gonna cost big money, where we get it?
It's gonna cost big money. It's like, to tear down an ordinary house right now is over $100,000.
Wow.
And you get a house in the barn.
But not an ordinary house. It's
It's what?
not an ordinary house. You're not dealing with nearly the volume of interior building materials as you would on
But that big old oval barn is,
it's chock full of junk, yeah.
It'd be a substantial amount of money,
Yeah, no doubt.
so,
but that's part C.
Yeah, let's
That's how
skip
you gotta
that
pay
then.
for it.
yeah.
Yeah, let's just wait till DPW is staffed for that and just do
Well,
this
as long
stuff.
as the hazardous material is removed, then they can do it at their leisure. And
Well-
then we even talked about maybe the fire department wanting to
Yeah, I was
drive
gonna
it
say, the
down,
fire
maybe.
department might do a training session up there.
Well, there is staffed as well. I'm being sarcastic. They're not staffed as well either.
No,
And I'll throw this out again, it's not
Usually
your,
they invite 3 or 4 towns to come in and, you know, they have fun doing it.
Possible, I can't speak for them.
No.
structurally, I'm not sure that it is possible, because again, it's not your typical.
Right.
Just remember, it's not your typical building materials.
And getting there and how close the trees are and
Yeah, so,
be hard.
yeah. I have never seen this place, so I couldn't tell you anything.
Worth a trip.
So if we line it up like on a weekday, if Public Works can't deal with it, I mean, I'm willing to deal with it if, we just set it up on a weekday afternoon, like a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
If you need a contact person, I mean, I don't know anything about asbestos particularly, but if you have you're gonna give them all a copy of the report and just say, here's, just go
There'll be a
look at it.
copy of the report included with the invitation for bids.
Yeah.
And all I need is to say, there'll be a mandatory walkthrough at a particular time and date, unless you want them to contact you and you can meet with them in a bit. That would be a pain. If you
Yeah,
want to
no,
meet
it's gonna
with
be one.
5 different people,
Yeah.
half of them aren't even gonna bid it. So you're better off to have them all come at one particular time and get it over with one time,
So,
and then let them bid it.
have a meet here. Cause it's, that way, the driveway's hard to notice, I don't think it's marked.
I'd look for it, I don't even,
The
I
power's
can't
been
find it.
disconnected even. I think they disconnected too. All the power's gone.
Yeah, it's cut off and, yeah.
Okay. So you would be the contact person?
Or just pick a day.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'd probably have to call Steve when I'm doing the thing over at the request for bids, and say, okay, I'm here, we're doing it, give me a day. So, that's where we're at with that. I haven't done a whole lot with it, just because I've been working 7 days a week, and this is a stumbling block for me, these little questions, so it's like homework, I just put it aside because it's too hard. So,
I'm pretty good in the, early winter here during the middle of the week, so, and I can like work from home and then just, take an hour or two off and go deal with it.
yeah,
I don't think it's gonna take very long.
no, half an hour to an hour maybe
So-
total.
We've talked about a number of different things as to what would be encompassed on a bid. Are we,
Well, I'm thinking if you're asking for a demolition price, we're gonna be very disappointed, money-wise, it's expensive, they get big, huge money to do it. And even removing this hazardous material is gonna be pretty hefty.
so my concern is that you might not be able to do the abatement without doing the demo at the same time on some of the materials.
It might be cheaper,
So if there's some way to capture that, yet have specifications that are clear to everybody, I mean, that's the challenge
that's
in
the
any
challenge
bid.
here. That's
Yeah.
where I'm confused
Capturing
myself.
that ability for an outfit that says, you know what, sure, we could charge 40,000 to abate or 60,000 to do the whole thing versus somebody else who's gonna do, 35,000 or 25,000 on the abatement, but you're on your own to find somebody else for 100,000 to do the demolition or whatever the numbers roll out as.
Because I know the few demolition jobs that I've seen where we go on site and do the erosion control
Yeah.
and demolition guy is there, they basically just take out asbestos, but all this caulk and all of this stuff that they say is on this particular project, it seems that just gets demoed and brought to a waste facility. I don't think they scrape all
Right,
that.
probably,
They don't
probably
do
with the
that. I've
surcharge
never
to
seen
go
it.
into that section of the landfill.
It goes to a certain place in a landfill and it's done. So, I mean, we even did a job at the Nashua Hospital once where we hit some asbestos
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
ground.
from-
And all we had to do was monitor it. We had a monitor there.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to line the dump beds with plastic, which is stupid. And then drive down the road with it. And we dumped it at the Nashua landfill. They buried it. They used it as landfill. So, they charge you $100 a ton, but, so it might be better, I don't know how to word it, but it might be better to have a demolition contractor just go in and take care of the whole thing.
Well, so you're just gonna have, the request for proposal is, 2 line items. One is gonna be just abatement. And then 2 would be abatement with demolition. And then you just have to describe the demolition, like, do we want the slab gone? The house is on piers, the slab, the garage has got a concrete slab. So if we say, you know, you just have to say remove the slab, and I wouldn't worry about that woodshed thing. I mean, you could, I guess you could.
They could take that out.
Yeah,
Are we allowed, on conservation land to just bury the slab? Dig a hole and bury it?
yeah, we can do whatever we want, you know.
That's the cheapest thing. That's what they
I don't
need.
understand why we would.
Well,
need to
you gotta
remove
do
the slab.
anything, just leave it.
Some jobs, they want you to remove it
Is-
off-site, because they're gonna prepare the site for something else.
It's like the old foundation holes we find in the woods. What's offensive about that? It's just the stuff
It's
that,
just concrete.
that was
But I mean,
in the
if-
ground, and it's
Yeah.
a historical record, and
There's no law against it, I just didn't know if we had a rule for conservation land to have it completely clean, but concrete to me is rock.
yeah.
Right.
So I would say that the demolition contractors should dig a hole and bury the concrete.
Or just leave it like Andy said. I mean,
I wouldn't even break up the slab if it were up to me.
If it doesn't have to
I would
be.
just clean the stuff off it and,
Yeah, that has to be written in specs.
Yeah.
We have to have some specific specifications on what stays and what doesn't. And that'll influence the price of the bid, you know, so we can't do what we did with the forestry thing and have something vague. We can't have that happen.
no, we learned our lesson, we move with specificity, yeah.
use the tax card, Ray,
Yeah,
to describe the buildings. That's gonna have footprints, and then just have them, you know, you're just gonna ask for 'em demolished down to the foundation or the
yeah.
piers, or however you wanna describe, you know, if they're sonotubes or whatever that was
I
under
mean,
that camp.
yeah, I mean, fundamentally, in a forest, 10, 20 years, you're gonna have 4-inch layer of duff over it, and
Yeah,
it'll bury itself if the worms aren't too aggressive.
okay.
What about the bond issue, folks?
Definitely
It-
bond it.
I'd
If-
probably
if it-
recommend, yeah, it's gonna be,
If it would, that would be on the option,
Yeah.
option number 2, would include the bond. Option number 1, I don't know whether, if somebody can say, you know, I've got all the certs, I've got all the, you know, ability to pull out the ACM for 10 grand,
yeah,
would you force them into, you know, a bond of,
nah, you don't want it, yeah.
I don't know, it might say, sure, you bond it, but it's gonna be 15 grand.
Oh, yeah, you pay for the bond, for sure. It's a pretty high percentage. So that's something to think about. But all I know is from experience, if you don't ask for a bond, you're gonna get somebody that's never even done demo before is gonna be bidding this. That's the only way to protect yourself, to get the right people,
Yeah, and I'm,
you know?
something like that, I'm inclined to say, yeah, we would go the bond route.
Okay,
You got my phone number?
I'm gonna write it down, because even if I did, I
You
usually
write it down.
lose it.
All right, we good with the path forward on that, Ray?
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Hey, guess what? We had some mowing done by Mr. Wilson. So some point, Naomi, when that invoice comes in, let me know. We'll get that approved. Town Forester contract. Did we catch the points on this, Steve? No, we really haven't dealt with this item.
The other thing was, the other night, Monday night, at a selectmen's meeting, they were looking for an RFP for the forester.
Back to that, huh? So that was an agreement of the Board of Selectmen that that's the route forward for this.
That's my understanding.
All right, we're open, we've got some news, we're open for comment and discussion.
I do know that I thought we agreed on a 5-year, the forester would be there for 5 years, but I don't know if you can put that into an RFP or not, or if that's RFP. Naomi, can you do a RFP and include it for 5 years?
Well, The other night, we also learned that you gotta have some sort of clause that if you don't have money, you can't pay it.
Right,
You can't do a 5-year one because you put on year after year,
Year.
and what if some year and $30,000 doesn't pass, you have no money,
right,
so you can't have a contract.
right.
So there has to be an escape clause.
But that, none of that work is obligated until you have a
You can't.
forestry
you can't
services
have a
agreement.
contract if you don't have money. You won't get money year to year.
So that actually isn't the case with the Conservation Commission because we've utilized both. There's actually 3 kind of mechanisms the forestry gets paid for. One of them is the annual appropriation that the voters approve or disapprove, and that's based on funding that's available in the town forest account. The second one is the town conservation account, which is, whatever the balance is in there, we know that's from the land use change assessment. And then the third source of funding is that timber harvest projects are paid for as a percentage of the harvest, except for, some of that overhead issues that we've talked about before. So it really, I think and as Andy said, this is more like an agreement, that's the oddball thing about it. And then those forestry services agreements are actually the contracts with the dollar amount in them. So that's what's kind of odd about this. So I had heard the same thing and had a brief conversation with Andy, and basically would like to, get the commission here to authorize, to say that, we are in favor of actually suggesting to the Board of Selectmen to sign the agreement that Meadowson has re-signed again, going to the November 27th meeting and handing this to them and talking to them about that they've already waived the town purchasing agreement and that they had already authorized this to be signed. And even if they, maybe there's some middle ground somewhere to give us some time to work on this. And the other thing that they're probably not understanding is there is an outstanding agreement with Meadowson. So we also need to talk to them about the timber harvest, because Meadowson has got a bunch of time into all the timber that got marked down at Felch. And that harvest, has been held off. And so let's just say we really went out on a, request for proposal, and either us or the selectmen, that's another question, who really selects the next forester. Let's say they select somebody else, so now they've got a big claim against the town for violating a contract that we already signed, because Meadowsend is dependent on that 6, 7, 8%, whatever that administration number was, to cover all those hours that they've already got into it, because they didn't get paid for the actual squirting the paint on the trees that they went out there and did. So I think the selectmen aren't really picking up on that. So I think there's some discussion to be had with them. If my suggestion to the commission here would be that we recommend to the selectmen that they sign the contract that we've all got a copy of, that was just re-signed by Meadowson.
There was one thing that also had a strike-through, and I don't think we understood what that was.
What's that?
The strike-through.
Mm-hmm.
There was a strike-through in the document, and we weren't sure why that was stricken.
The, I believe, okay.
Well, that's why we needed a discussion on this. It was at a meeting with the Board of Selectmen that I walked into as a representative of this commission to discuss the way forward according to recommendations from our forester. And I walked into a meeting with the selectmen, shared the recommendation of the forester, walked out of the meeting with this sudden declaration that this needs to go to an RFP and it needs to go now and it needs to be done in the next 6 weeks, and that's very doable and there's nothing much involved with it. So that was a definite blindside. I really stepped into the door on that one. We come back to our meeting subsequent to that one this late summer, early fall. We talk about it here. We present a written request to the Board of Selectmen. And then very early on that meeting, before 7 Monday night, this is dealt with. And I don't understand why the Board of Selectmen did not take it upon the chair, upon himself to say, hey, we don't understand this, please come talk to us about it. So back when Steve was on fire duty, when I went and talked with the selectmen, it really was overwhelming in that the turn was, so abrupt. And I did not have the backup to have a good, solid discussion at that point about what's involved with the town forester contract, and some of the things that Steve brings to the table are simply not within my lexicon, within my daily or educational or professional doings. So I don't understand why we go forward now as a town or as a Board of Selectmen without saying, hey, Conservation, come on in and talk with us about this. It seems like it's gone to the point of just saying, well, do what we say, don't talk to us about it. You've presented your thoughts. We don't understand them, we don't agree with them, we don't invite you to talk about them, but here's our solution, just put it out to bid, put it out to bid, put it out to bid. So then it comes back to us in this meeting, and I guess what we do again, this ties back in with what Mark was talking about earlier. What do we do now? So now we say, do we say write a note to the Board of Selectmen? Well, we tried that. Do we say go to a meeting and step forward as a chair, as a department head? What is our strategy for having a good discussion where any of these questions can be answered, and it's not just well, it's on the agenda, we'll deal with it. The only thing we can deal with quickly is just say, all right, this is our policy, this is what we want. And Steve hasn't had that chance to discuss it, despite being the one who, when I was told to sit down, to take that message back from the, September meeting? Or maybe it was, it was September. And so Steve does that, but then we're like, all right, well, nobody, unfortunately, I didn't know until Monday night that it was on the agenda. And by the time I bumped into it doing other conservation business, I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know this was here. Why aren't we at the table to talk about it? And I think, Mark, we keep trying. But I guess the strongest try is we just have to attend every Board of Selectmen. I hate the absolutes. We have to regularly attend Board of Selectmen meeting in order to be available in case it does come up, or we have to get better at reviewing every agenda and understanding what implication there might be there, so that we can, as officers of the commission, step in to say, sure, you may have questions. This is well worthy of a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth. And we're not achieving that by our approach, or by the other hand, the Board of Selectmen requesting our presence to explain. It's a little bit long-winded, but the sincere, and I truly believe it's sincere, desire of this commission is to have the questions answered, have the ability to point and counterpoint and flesh out what it takes to fully understand sort of the differences. How is this different than a lawn mowing contract? Well, a lawn mowing contract, it's cutting grass. Well, all you're doing different is cutting trees. It's like, no, there's a lot more to it than just cutting trees. It's not a contract with the logger. It's not a contract with the plumber. It's like combining all these aspects. It'd be like combining the plumber with the designer, with the architect, with the building inspector, all in one position. And that's what you kind of get out of a forester. And how can you guys, as Board of Selectmen members, understand that if you're not given or not having the audience that can explain it to you? And when we did, the last time we felt like, Steve, you correct me if I'm wrong, we had a decent back and forth on that. Well, it was amazing. It was like, oh, all right, I guess I see what you're saying, and that is different. And lo and behold, with that discussion, a previous board said, yeah, well, forester, kind of like, town engineer, kind of like, legal representation is a different cat. So we're not going to subject it to you must renew this every year by bid and the typical purchase policy for buying widgets, or not to disparage anyone in landscaping, but lawn care. A forester brings us so much more to the table and regularly employs it for us or deploys it at our direction. So I guess I'm long-winded agreeing with Steve that we ought to force the issue, not in a irreverent or disrespectful fashion, but say respectfully, folks, we need a discussion on this, not a 10 or 5 minute consideration and go do this direction.
Yeah, I would just add, I think like Andy said, and we'd already had that discussion with, previous boards and thought it was all set. And the communication back and forth between boards, it wasn't clear. We didn't even know that it had actually been waived, and that the contract had been, well, I think we eventually found out it was waived, but the contract had been authorized to be signed, and then I guess maybe there were some minor changes from year to year, but the idea is this is an overarching agreement, and then yearly there are tasks. So there's one task that's for like miscellaneous stuff. Like if someone from Meadowsend Timberlands, we were trying to do quarterly updates, so they come in here and they give an update on what's going on. Well, that's on their hourly, what they call their hourly agreement. And then if we say, all right, Meadowsend, we'd like you to go out there and maintain the boundary lines on a parcel. They'll give us a proposal with a dollar amount that we vote on, and we vote on what fund that's coming from. And we've usually drawn the lines on, if it's for a town forest, it comes out of the town forest account, but if it's for a conservation parcel, we use conservation. And so we vote on those tasks, and that's how they get authorized. So like the overarching agreement doesn't really even execute any money at all. It's just it's a mechanism to do business. Somehow that the original overarching agreement, nobody seems to have the signed copy from back in the day. So I think part of the discussion with the selectmen will be, if you do want this to go, like, what do you hope to gain? What's the selection criteria? Because, we're really happy with Meadowsend. It's kind of the problem. And it's not just Jeremy Turner, it's Laura French doing GIS, it's Matthias doing the forestry. They've had a lot of good people over the years, and they have a good skill set. And then, just for your question on the strike-through, what happened there, we've had this discussion a couple different times. Laura worked with Naomi she grabbed a different town's agreement, and for some reason that town, I was talking about the timber harvest like Felch, so there was like the forest, in that agreement, it was that town, the way they worked it is, everything related to that timber harvest was paid for by that percentage. And the way Meadowsend has always done it is strictly the marking and going out there and dealing with the logger in the field is covered by that, but the actual, the work leading up to it, the actual walkthrough day and preparation of the maps and stuff, they were charging against the hourly. So that's the strike through there. That's just the difference. They were charging that on the hourly. So that, that's all it was. It was.
Can I give my take on this thing too now? Can I? I think what happened here over the past few months is we inadvertently lost our credibility. And the reason why I think that is we put out this contract to bid. Now, I agree with all of you that Meadows End really, truly is the best person to take care of our forestry things. They've been doing it for years. He's very good at it. They're thorough. It's all good. But what happened is with this last bidding process is something went a little bit different than normal, where the seemingly apparent low or best bidder, let's say, was not selected. There was questions as to why. I had questions as to why, but that's okay. So then we had the meeting with the selectmen. And we were told, Mark and I were both told to our face, that all 4 of the prospective bidders were recontacted and they were more than willing to bid again. And based on that information, we said, okay, that's great, let's do that. While we're in the meeting with the selectmen saying this, one of the bidders contacted the town and said, we weren't recontacted. So all of a sudden, the selectmen are saying, whoa, we're being lied to, because one of the bidders just called us while we're at the meeting and said, we were not contacted. What are you saying that all the bidders agreed to be rebid? We weren't contacted. Happens to be the people that should have been selected in the first place. So, based on what we heard, we made a decision, but the selectmen didn't see it that way. That's why they want to go out for requests for proposals for a new forester, because they feel that somebody was lying, for lack of a better word. And I made my decision based on, yes, we should rebid it, based on that information, that all 4 people were more than willing to rebid it. But one of them says they weren't, and it happens to be the one in conflict. So that's not good. So that sheds a terrible light on us. So no matter what we say now, they'll look at us and say, are they leveling with us?
So
But see, Ray, you may say that's the best bid, but I don't say that. I equally,
Well, no,
I
that's-
equally look at it and say, that wasn't the best bid, not at all. And every person here could have an opinion on that.
Yes. But
So-
a lot of people had that opinion.
It doesn't, yes, some people had that opinion. And you say there were, a lie, or there was a lie. I would say there were a lot of lies.
That's even
on
worse.
a lot of people around this table.
So that's,
So I'll stop you, or I won't. I will counter that. I agree with you that there's a loss of
trust.
trust, perhaps, a loss of trust. But I gotta seriously disagree with we didn't go with the best bidder. And I would go back to, you almost said the top dollar. And that's correct. We did not, our forester did not. And with us acquiescing or agreeing to the way things have gone, trusting the forester on that, our forester did not pick the top dollar bid.
No.
Well, we don't have to pick the top dollar bid, and the folks who are saying we must, I think, don't understand the bid selection process in this case. Maybe in a lot of other cases that applies.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was not purely a top dollar wins. So let's not, I would say, let's not reiterate that lie, because never was it laid out as the top dollar in this bid process will be awarded the job.
But it wasn't spelled out. And so being a public type of work, being funded by,
There were mistakes made, absolutely.
yeah, it's implied that the person that gives the apparent
No.
best
I
number wins.
adamantly disagree with this one.
So, but that's neither near or there. That's fine. If that was spelled out, that would be okay. That wasn't, so that started the problem. But the biggest problem, I think, with the selectmen, if I was a selectman, would be the fact that we were presented information that was false. And we based an assumption on that, and it could make us look bad. I don't care either way what people think about me, but that's how I see it. So I feel like we're not dealing, everybody's trying to do the best they can. And I still feel that Jeremy is the best person to take care of our forestry needs. These people understand, they own land everywhere. They understand the forest like the back of our hand, right? But he lost his credibility when he said he invited all 4 people to rebid it, when in fact he didn't, and was verified by the person that called. That's bad in itself. That just leave everything else out of the conversation. That's a bad, bad, very bad thing. Because Mark and I made a decision based on that. And that wasn't the right information to have. And so, you know, and then maybe if Steve was here, it would have been a little different. Steve wasn't here for those times. And maybe he doesn't know what happened and what Mark and I were given for information. And we went to the selectmen's meeting. We went there very honestly, and we agreed, yeah, let's put it out to rebid. They all 4 said they would. Let's do it honestly now. We're gonna have a good set of specs. All 4 people are gonna rebid it. But that's not what would have happened. One of those person would not have rebid it because they weren't invited to rebid it.
Can I just interject quickly? So I wasn't there.
Go ahead, Steve.
I can vouch for Jeremy's character, and here's what I understand from this, is that the Herricks were sitting at at the selectmen meeting that was talking about being rebid, so that's why he assumed that they had been notified, because they were there, so he didn't go back and re-notify him.
Were
No,
they
no.
there? Were they there? They were here.
They were at a meeting.
They were at the
one of them.
selectmen's meeting also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Yep. So there was a selectman that was using that word. Jeremy would not intentionally lie, and that's how he looked at it. Was it right or wrong? I'm not here to make judgment calls. Now I want to back everybody up on this. We did really good on having a good site walk, talking about what we wanted. A trail in there. We took a lot of time, and we didn't do a great job as a commission. So I think, you know, in hindsight, we should have looked at the statement of work to make sure that it was detailed based on our expectations from that site walk, and it wasn't. So unfortunately, that was just verbalized. So that's kind of one of my concerns on, I don't think all of the contractors all had had the exact idea of what they needed to do. You didn't say build a half-mile of road and leave this perfectly clean. You know, so that was bungled, and that was us, that was Meadowsen. Then Meadowsen inappropriately opened a sealed bid without inviting the public, so that was messed up. You know, they realize that now, we all make mistakes, they typically don't do that, they say, you know, and from now on, we're gonna fix that by either opening it here at a meeting, you know, no matter who the forester is, or at a selectmen's meeting. So there were just a bunch of mistakes, and I agree with what Andy's saying as far as you can select, you know, whatever contractor you want, but I think the prudent thing to do in this case was actually pull the whole contract back and put it back out, specifying what that improvement is, because you only got one shot at it. You know, so, but I don't think Jeremy ever intentionally lied. You know, we've all worked with him for, you know, let's go 15, whatever years it is.
I think he was put in a hard spot.
No, yeah, I mean, whatever happened there, he did not intentionally lie to you guys, to the board of selectmen. That's just not Jeremy. The guy is a solid character.
Yep.
And, I would stick up for him to the end, because I just, you know, I know that's how the guy is.
He was a little rattled because the decision he made he thought was final, and then the selectmen questioned it, they came to see us at our meeting, and he, you know, he was a little bit rattled about, taken blindsided probably by it. And, he was, you know, a little apprehensive about what he was saying, but that's how I look at it. I'm not accusing anybody of anything,
Yeah.
I'm just, that's how,
I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. I just wanna, you know, make sure that we understand he wouldn't intentionally lie. That's just not his
I don't think he
character.
would. You know, he's not that kind of a, and he wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
But we're all trying to figure out why all the events happened.
Yeah.
And how far it's gotten and how far it might potentially still get. You know, we could still get a lawsuit through this. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what are
All
they?
right, we're straying from where we started, but Ray makes some very important points. Would anybody else like the opportunity, who hasn't had the opportunity to speak to the concerns that Ray raises and the thoughts that Steve shares, and my contribution for what it's worth also? So, I think Ray just, yeah, okay, background, a little bit of background, and there's a whole lot, and I would caution everyone here, there's a whole lot that I don't know, that Ray doesn't know about what happened here, that Naomi doesn't know, Janice, I mean, these folks at the table don't know. Not one person here knows the full sweep of what happened in this. And I want to be very careful that we don't characterize our position as one coming from absolute knowledge. We don't have that. We've got some perspective, we've got some history, we've got some business acumen. But this, I think, this deal for a harvest like many harvests we've done before, unfortunately, went sideways. And a disgruntled bidder said, I'm aggrieved and I would like the chance to do this work.
Are we allowed?
And he came and spoke to the selectmen,
Yeah.
spoke to the town administrator, to the selectmen as individuals, as a group, and said, I think I ought to get this work. And
Are we
we,
allowed to just call someone and say, come do this work, or do we have to put it out to bid?
Has to go out to bid.
It has to go out to bid?
so
Anything over 5,000.
things that could have happened,
5,000.
there are probably a dozen of things that could have happened, but what didn't happen is we did not, as a commission, choose to change our opinion as a commission as to who should be awarded the bid. We accepted that we made some mistakes, and maybe some pretty substantial mistakes. We accepted that the process got fouled. We accepted that there are, there was one obvious aggrieved party who thought he should receive the work, and I'm sure there's another party who chose not to come in and talk to us who would have a very strong case to make that they should have been awarded the work as they were told they were awarded the work. So there's a whole lot of things here. Fundamentally, yes, this commission needs to work with the selectmen. The selectmen and the commission have substantial turnover. There's an education process. You're still learning a lot and sharing a lot, and that's good. And Zuzu will be sharing more as she comes up to speed, and everyone at this table has contributed. But let's not get too adamant about our knowledge of how things got to where they are. And I think the most important thing Ray shared is, okay, there's a point where this went sour, and we haven't worked our way out of it. Let's continue to work and educate and accept our lumps. Steve is suggesting that he and I, at least, make ourselves available to a opportunity to respond to a proposed course of action. I'm not sure that the selectmen can actually dictate the course of action in this case, but to respond to it in a way that we say, let's have the discourse that we haven't had for years on this. And let's let's do this rolling forward and not in a reflexive way saying, just be done with it and, you know, do what we tell you. So, do we as a commission want to, nod an agreement or state an objection to the suggestion that we respond to what Sherry's shared with us from the Board of Selectmen meeting with a request that we have an audience and we stake out a time where we can actually, to the full availability and interest of both parties, have a good solid discussion on this and not be making decisions without the presence of the other entity. Fundamentally, if four of you folks decide that we should go a way contrary to the discussion so far, then, you know, feel free to step up and say, you know what, the case has been made, we just need to put this out to bid. Because, you know, we have the freedom to do that, and I can say chair and vice chair and anybody else, we don't agree with you. But now's the opportunity to do that. Or we can move forward with the suggestion Steve makes to say, back to the Board of Selectmen, 2 members being present, 2 of 5 is a pretty significant chunk here. You know, let's not
Well,
treat this as a directive, but let's treat this as a discussion we haven't had yet.
Yeah, I'm not here in an official capacity, I'm here to learn. So
Understood.
I can't.
Thank you, Janice. I understand you're here. I appreciate you being here, and I hope every opportunity to learn we can afford you tonight.
So,
Thank
in
you.
our discussions over the timber sale, it came down to, it's not always the lowest bidder, it's not always the highest bidder, there's a criteria that goes with it. They want us to go out to bid, so if we put out a request for bid, and we still choose Jeremy Turner, because he has all the things that we need, it went out for bid, why don't we do that? And it fulfills the necessary that they're looking for, that it went out for bid, and then when we see what's available, maybe there's somebody out there that might be better. I don't know, we don't know, but at least we go through the procedure. We still have the ability, and I couldn't write the request for proposal to make sure it's done right, because we see what happens if it's not. But we put it in, and it's, we can deny or any bid that comes in, you know, if we don't like what we see.
Well, what if the person we deny gets very aggrieved and say, we don't appreciate your
If it's on
your
the
basis
budget,
for denial,
if we
and
go-
so we're gonna go to the selectmen and say, selectmen, we want you to pick us, like happened before. So, I'm a little bit leery of the, let's go out for a bid because we just want to see what happens. I like going out for a bid because I don't have somebody to do this work for me. And I have a sort of, not even an empty slate, and I need somebody to come in and do this work. I have trouble going out and saying, hey, Joe Schmo Forrester, I want you to bid on this, but let you know, I have no problem with this outfit that employs somebody we worked with for a long time. I don't know that, I have trouble even putting that together, because what am I looking for that I don't have?
Andy, can I?
Please.
can I interject a little? 'Cause- and I had a discussion with someone, on the board earlier today about this, so there's a few different issues, and we need someone right now. Like I said, we've already got this contract for that timber harvest, so even if we ended up at the Board of Selectmen and say, hey, at least give us a year to work on this, because we need to understand some things from the board, like what's their criteria?
Exactly.
So I think no matter what, we want to extend this, you know, at a minimum by a year. I don't think this, I think it's futile really going out to bid, but that's really problematic. If we go to the board and they say, you know, it's gonna be the lowest cost person, because last time it wasn't. What it was is, we had the criteria to have to dig them out, and MTL responded exactly.
How you
And,
need it.
and the other vendors gave us packages, but they didn't respond exactly. They missed something, and that's how we tossed them. And just ended up being, that MTL was great. You know, they ended up being really good, so. And then I would ask the, you know, the Board of Selectmen, you know, what's the difference with the town engineer? What's the difference with the town attorney? That's the discussion. I mean, the board already said, yeah, we're exempting this, so we're so happy with this company, you know, I think.
Then what comes down to is, so where are we at right now? Is MTL our forester or not?
We have so we gotta disentangle, you know, and that's another problem, right? So if you say, buy MTL, right, you know, we've gotta pay them.
We're not, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, we got some, couple of things coming up right now.
Yeah,
Is he our forester or not our forester?
right, and that's when you,
Now, Board of Selectmen said technically he's not. Is that not correct, how I understand that?
yeah.
So we need to identify that first, and if the way to identify it is we have to put it out for bid, because that's the town policy, how do we get around that?
Well, they waived it,
Okay, do we have that?
yeah, it's in the
Okay, then
minutes.
if we have that, then what's the problem?
That's what we're gonna go ask. So we're suggesting, what I'm suggesting tonight is that we go, that if the commission says, you know, what I'd like to see is a vote that says, we ask the Board of Selectmen to abide by the waiver of the town purchasing policy and to sign this agreement with MTL. That, you know, that would be great. Now, if we go into the Board of Selectmen and they say, hey, you know what? We really want you to go out to bid, you know, during the back and forth, they say, all right, well, we need some time, we need a forester in the meantime. So, you know, why don't you give us a year or two, or whatever you wanna give us, and sunset this thing, but give us a reasonable amount of time so we're not rushed. And then, do you want us to come back to talk about, because we don't wanna have a parameter, we think that, you know, that we have qualitative assessments, and the board is focused on quantitative.
Right, which is where this started at in the first place.
Right, and we had a lot of back and forth
Yeah.
for a number of years, and it's never got fixed. And so, the original one, when we put it out, like I said, we didn't even have to get to the quantitative, because like, probably 4 bidders were not responsive, you know, exactly the way they should have been. And MTL nailed it. So there was never that. So like right now, say 3 of them come back and they all are exactly responsive, and then do we have to start looking at dollars? Are we held to that? You know, so that we need to understand that from the board. And really, we need to like, I mean, I think it's gonna take us months. We're gonna have to have a statement of work, and then probably run that by the board, come with some agreement on how we're gonna make the selection. So
Yeah,
it's-
criteria has to be
Yes.
set.
Yeah, it's not gonna be quick. So I mean, ideally, we go to the board and get an extension at least.
Yeah,
I don't think in the long run, anything would change if we had another forester altogether. It has to, well, it would change for the worse.
Yeah.
Because the forester we have has been dealing with our forests for years. He knows it intimately. To change people is gonna be disruptive, to say the least, no matter what they charge. The money's it's not relevant.
we have ongoing projects already.
Right, the ongoing projects already that he needs to be paid for.
Yeah,
But the biggest thing,
but they're ongoing, and he's already had it
Yes.
from start all the way through mid, and they haven't
yeah,
completed it
and it's
yet.
hard to change,
And something
okay?
else comes in, and we're starting all over at ground zero.
Right, and it wouldn't be beneficial for anybody to change people. The only issue that has to be overcome is the transparency and the trust in people. That is what went wrong.
We can
That's the
rebuild
whole
that.
thing.
We can rebuild that, you
You
know.
know,
we
that
have-
has to be rebuilt. That's what made everything go south.
But we've already come up with guidelines of how we were gonna address that.
Right. So that's what we have to do. But I would I honestly think that Jeremy is the best person for the job.
Yeah.
So it's not, I remind you,
Meadows.
the agreement is with MTL,
Yeah.
and they've got a bunch of good people.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. not
He's the
just
one
him.
that, he's the face I see.
Yeah,
Matthias has come
Matthias.
and assigned to us.
he has.
But that company,
that.
that company is
Yes.
who we should, that's who I would hire. So he's
And when we did
already
the,
in the process.
we did the Felch site walk, big part of it was Laura French.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
In
You
fact,
know.
she was the one leading the sidewalk.
the selectmen are a little upset at what happened, unfortunately. So that has to be fixed. Fortunately, Sherry is on the select board and she comes to hear what we're saying too. So, you know, we're not going on completely deaf. You know, hopefully Sherry will have some input on, in the selectmen's meeting of what we're discussing here.
So
It's up to her, but that's the way I look at it.
it's getting kind of late and all.
Yes,
What-
and
I mean, I'd like to suggest two things. One, you know, make a motion to request the Board of Selectmen approve the Meadows and Timberlands agreement that we had recently forwarded.
You have seen the final one?
Yeah, it's the one with that strike through. It's emailed to everybody.
No, there's one after that.
No, Jeremy
there's no
signed it,
strike-through.
stamped it.
There's another one. Yeah, there's no strike through sewer. General service, 14th of August, 2023.
Yeah, that's the one you just signed that I sent out. Oh, so is the strike through on the, so somebody sent the other one back out with the strike through on it?
No, this has the changes that were in the strike through.
Yeah, okay, so,
And they also put all the Board of Selectmen's name on it now.
yeah, I
so
was just
it's Board
looking
of
at that.
Selectmen.
Didn't that have the strike through on it?
No, I just got it right here.
Yeah, the one I emailed out?
No, this one came from Jeremy.
Yeah, didn't I forward, or did he send it to all of us, or did I
Yeah,
forward it?
no, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one I'm trying to.
Okay.
So the 14, it's the one he's got a slice and stamp on it, right?
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, so that would be in the motion.
do you want to consider for 1 year or two?
No, I mean, we can negotiate that. I wouldn't throw that in my motion. I'm just gonna
Okay.
assign it as is. If they want to add a limit on there, they can do that.
All right, so you made a motion to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that they approve the contract with them, Meadows End, as is.
Yeah, the 14 August. Seems, all right.
August 14th version.
Yeah. That was emailed, I got it on the 10th of August.
Do you want to say, and to make that appeal in person so as to answer any questions that may arise?
Yeah, sure. Didn't that go out to the new email? I mean, to the town one, so it couldn't have been that far back.
I have it as August 10th.
All right, hang on, let me just,
Both the marked up and this one are in that email.
okay, okay. Yeah, I've got it as 10/23. So are you looking at your personal one, or are you looking at your, town?
Yeah, I just started tonight was the town one.
Yeah, let me just make sure.
That was in my Gmail account.
No, it's 10/23/23. You're looking at something different.
Let's try to clean this up.
Yeah, so 10/23/23 is gonna be the date.
So we're changing that to 10/23/23 version instead of August 14th?
Oh, I see what Mark's, no, so the top is,
Oh, the August 14th.
and at the bottom, he's got
Yeah,
You signed it, yeah, that's what the difference is. I get, so the one that was actually, yeah, the one that's signed on, the August 14th version that's signed on 10/23/23.
I don't have the signed copy, I just said the one before he signed it.
Oh, it's on the town email. What is it? It's, yeah, you're on there. I sent it out 10/23.
I think you just signed up for the town email though, so those emails might
Oh,
just be
it evaporated.
disappeared into
Yeah.
the
August
cloud.
12th's the first, November 12th's the first one I got on the town email.
So that answers that question, Zuzu, yeah.
Yeah, let me try to re-forward to everybody.
All right. If folks understand the motion, could we have a second?
Could we just get a full read of that for the minute taker there?
It's, for the Conservation Commission to request the Board of Selectmen approve the, Ware Forester, it says 5-year agreement actually on it. That is, it says August 14th, 2023 at the top, and it is signed by Jeremy Turner on October 23rd, 2023.
I will second that.
So do you have, are you signed up now in your town?
I just got the paper tonight, so I'm
Let's see
gonna
enough.
work on that in the next few months.
Okay. we've got-
Did you include the in-person part there? Sorry, I've been sitting here for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I said that in my head without you saying it. I would like that to
Be delivered in
be delivered
person.
in person.
Yeah, so on the 27th, well, hopefully the 27th.
No, we'll write it just like that, hopefully the 27th, because we don't have any control over whether that's for certain. All right, anybody want to talk any more about this? Matt? All right, we got a motion made, duly seconded, made by Steve, seconded by Mike. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstain? All in favor?
I just resent that.
I think I would like to make an executive decision here, but I will open it up for debate, that we table the rest of our agenda.
The thing that would go in and then without is to ask, to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that we send out the Felch updated request for proposal and get that harvest going again, because it's a good seed year and we really need that funding to continue forest management.
I would suggest that we, I don't know, it's feeling like a bridge too far for tonight, but Steve's made a suggestion. Any thoughts from the commissioners on that, as we're still assembled?
I think we kinda missed the boat on this, on the seeding part. And can they do it in the winter and still have it reseed?
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's when you wanna cut it. That
guess.
protects the regen. It's already
Question
there.
comes in is,
Who will do it?
well, it's not who will do it, is, we're still embroiled in controversy over the first bid,
Yeah.
Are we?
Nothing's happened.
Are we?
Okay.
We don't know.
then
But if
I
we
mean-
get sued, we're gonna get sued anyhow, so it's got nothing to do with that, you know?
okay.
Stop it. No, I think we're gonna be full blown into that shortly.
No, you said we couldn't stop it. Is that what, I was just asking, is that what you said?
I don't think. They're gonna push forward.
What's that?
They're gonna push forward.
Against the town or against Medicine?
Could be both. I don't know. Just saying, they're not favorable with the information that's been provided.
Want to bring that up on the 27th with the selectmen? When we're meeting with them in person?
I mean, that would be my suggestion, but if it's, feel adverse to that. I mean, sooner or later, that harvest should go.
I don't think it hurts asking, having a discussion about it. I don't think we should press anything, but have a open discussion about it, sure, yeah.
Does anybody feel like our prior recommendation no longer stands? I mean, Ray spoke to disappointment with our forester and suggested Mark had similar disappointment. Is that disappointment to the point of saying, well, I'd be against?
No, I was disappointed at what he did, but I'm not disappointed with his performance. I truly believe he's the only forester we should have to do the work we do. It's just that we lost that credibility and it made some people angry, and now we have to work through it.
Right.
But I think the lawsuit thing, whether it happens or not, we can't control that.
Right.
And as a business owner, if I was in the same position as them, I wouldn't pursue it personally, because it's gonna have to go to a jury trial, and that's gonna be expensive.
Let's
So-
try not to go down that route on too much
They can do what they
supposing-
want, but
Of course, yeah.
that's, we can't
What I'm
change.
saying is if it does, it may stop things.
Yeah. Would it though? You can still
All right,
go
we,
through the
we,
process.
we operate in a dearth of legal opinion at this table, so
So
let's not suppose too much, but come up with our
Can I ask a
best course
question?
of action. Yeah,
Yeah,
that-
we-
now's the
That's-
opportunity.
I think that's fair, that's
Ask
fine,
the question.
yeah.
yeah.
We have not,
It has to start with, we have to have the forester, someone to handle the sale for us. We are not gonna handle the sale.
Right,
So let's start with, we need to get the forester agreement done.
right.
And then
then
talk
move
about a
on to
forest.
sign.
So the, just point of order there, that we have a signed contract for management of that harvest.
Okay,
So the board seems, there've been a lot of opinions on what is or what isn't a contract. I guarantee you, I believe I'm the one who signed it. If that went to court, the judge is gonna say that's a contract.
the FSA is a contract.
Yes, absolutely.
forestry services agreement.
Yeah.
Those are what we pay off of.
Yeah.
We don't pay off of a general services
We
agreement.
didn't sign one for that yet.
Yeah, we did, got it,
Oh,
yeah, I got,
okay.
oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think there's been some confusion on that. I was able to hunt down every FSA that's still in play, and that one is signed, it's still in play. The other ones expire here at the end of the year, so I mean, the other ones, we could say, you guys aren't doing anything else. So further notice, and then if the selectmen don't want that ever to go out, was Meadow Sun handling, then they need to figure out how to disentangle us from that and pay Meadow Sun whatever they had coming to them.
What the balance is yet.
But, yeah, I mean, because that would have been paid as a percentage of the harvest, so then Meadow Sun's gotta add up all their hours they got into it, if they wanna settle it that way, or if they could go after us for something too. Or they could just say, here's what we we would've got, and I don't know, but, cause like half their time is probably marking, half of it's probably checking loggers. For that 7 or whatever it was %.
All right, so in retrospect here, I don't, there's much in a discussion about that harvest that the commission members have not been able to share, especially Steve, with the Board of Selectmen. I think we'd be poorly served to bury that perspective and that potential discussion, chance to educate, chance to learn, back and forth each way. So, is a commission, I'm seeing a nods, is the commission consent that that would be a good discussion to try to forward to the board's attention?
Yeah, I don't think you need a motion for that, but
Nope.
during the meeting, yeah, that's,
And I'll ask again, is there anybody who would change his or her vote regarding the recommendation we made back in the late summer about the proposed way forward for that harvest being rebid. The other options are select somebody else, either the one who has found the favor of the forester, or the one who had a better face value price who did not find favor and objected, so. And I guess the fourth one is just nothing, sit on it, but still seeing nobody grabbing anything. I'll say the commission's recommendation is unchanged. Anybody want to grab any of these other agenda items as we were rolling up on 11?
91A training is gonna be on the 28th, but we're gonna do it by Zoom, on the 27th. So you're all gonna get an invite, it's gonna be recorded, town council's putting it on, 6:30 to 8:30. So you get an invite on probably the 27th, and you'll all be invited in, and we're gonna record it.
Is that a Wednesday?
Tuesday night.
Tuesday?
All right.
6:30 to 8:30?
Let me repeat, town administrator just told us on the other business, 91A training, that on Tuesday, the 28th of November, we will be invited to a remote training opportunity, more than an opportunity, almost an obligation, to be conducted by Zoom, 6:30 to 8:30 Tuesday night.
Yeah, and it's open to all, so that's why there's no room big enough. It's open to planning, zoning, it's gonna be on the web, and it is gonna be recorded, and the recording will be ours.
So,
So if somebody had missed it, they could watch it, they could come up and watch it.
Well, no, I could probably send them a link.
so that is, as Naomi just said, open to all. And a question for you, is there any interaction, or is it a one-way?
No, you can ask questions.
So,
I'll let her do
the
it.
one thing you won't be able to do afterwards is ask the questions. So,
She's gonna run it like she runs a training, so if she ran it and
Yeah.
you have a question, you just have to use the little hand.
Right, right, right.
But it's gonna go to your town emails. And I'll send it out Monday the 27th, so you'll have it fresh and hopefully at the top of your ears, if you're not looking for it.
all right, and if you have viewing parties, please don't make a quorum, okay? All right?
What is not that, wouldn't that get noticed anyways?
Maybe it's noticed anyhow. Maybe we should have a viewing party.
You can meet with council without it being a meeting,
Well,
so there's no minutes.
All right.
We are gonna record it.
So assemble if you care to, and this is news to us, so we'll think about it, and if,
And you just have a letter, just a reminder from society that you have to get your conservation easement monitoring to them by January 15th of 2024. And this is the second reminder since July, it says. She
Is
sent us
that-
a letter in July.
Is that the
That's
Thurn
for the
Pond and
Collins Ledge.
Collins Ledge?
so we've
want a
got-
town forester do that, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what we've done. All right,
More
so
electronic, so
Naomi just shared a correspondence from the Society of Protection of New Hampshire Forest saying Collins Ledge monitoring is due January 15th, 2024. Thank you. All right, let's hear that final motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Got a second? All right, motion made by Mark, seconded by Ray. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
We adjourn at 10:53.